It being on or about 6:30 on Monday, April 1st, 2019, I call this meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission to order. First up, I guess we have a discussion on the land donation of a 7-acre parcel adjacent to Metacomet Reservation area, conservation area. Do we know if the landowners are here?
Do we now? The littles, I'll remember what they look like.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrew.
I didn't see them, but maybe they came in after.
No?
No, there's no one that looks like him out there.
All right. 39 Winterberry Lane.
You want to move it to the end of the discussion?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Motion to
We don't
move.
have to, but-
We don't have to. Okay, all right, cool. Excuse me one second.
Hi, everybody. First conversation down here, means you maybe around the corner, just going to report. Please, thank you. There's somebody else sitting.
No, that's sweet. No, please come up a chat.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Evening.
Hi there. Thank you.
All right. If you guys wouldn't mind signing in, please. Please note this meeting is being audio and video recorded, so act accordingly. Don't end up on YouTube like Alex Jones.
Do you remember Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
He's now the president of the Homeowners Association for Winterberry Hills.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Do you have proof of publication?
We thought we got rid of you guys for a while.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got some trees threatening houses.
Yes.
I don't know if you brought, you do have the oversized plans, good.
I've got the stack.
Oh yeah, I saw all kinds of plans up there.
Yeah, I got the office copy, which are color, if it helps at all.
Can you guys all see that?
Yes. I'm good.
Okay, very good.
All right. Tell us about your project, please.
Sure. Fairly recently, over the last 2 or 3 months, in our community, which is 44 individual homes, you're probably aware of it, some of the members came to the Board of Directors and asked if we could inquire about removing some trees that they felt were dangerous. We brought in an arborist who walked the property with my resident colleague, Marsha Bowen-Wells, and that gentleman from Walnut Trees, a certified arborist, indicated that there were a handful of trees that posed a danger to the some of the residents in there. We had offered this to a handful of residents. 4 responded and wanted to apply through the RDA. And then at that point, we applied online and provided the Conservation Commission with what we think is the requisite information. It's in the RDA. We included a statement of, I'm not sure what you call it, but dangerousness, let's say, from the certified arborist. We also included measurements of these trees from the house or possibly the back porch. We provided a map that we had that showed where these trees were located on the 4 properties that are at play here. In addition, we took pictures of the trees, generally the lower part of the tree, the higher part of the tree, so you could get a sense of what it looked like.
Sure.
And that was the essence, I think, of the RDA that we provided for you.
Okay.
So there are 4 trees, 4 residents, and I think that sums it up. Did I miss anything, Marcia?
All right.
Great.
All right, so we've got notes on all these from the arborist and from Andrea. And Andrea, you thought number 51, one of the arms of the double leaning oak would be good for removing, the other might be okay, is that?
Yeah, I actually didn't realize he was a certified arborist. He didn't identify himself that way, so that's really good to know. When I took a look at the double leaning oak, one does lean toward the house. The other one they're both pretty massive if you've been out there. One's 1.5 feet diameter, the other one's 2. It looks like you can cut the one that leans without interfering with the other, and it'll actually give it a chance to stabilize a bit. So that one, and then there was another one that really doesn't look like a threat. At a different location, and but since I had encouraged them to come in as a group, and the arborist identified all of these, I was suggesting something a little different, which is give them a 3 years to determine whether or not the conditions of the tree changes at all, and have them removed over the 3-year period. Those two individual trees. So it's your choice as to whether only two of the 5 don't look like they're an imminent threat.
Okay. I guess I would just wonder if
And it
having
doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be intimate. It doesn't have to be intimate.
Imminent.
It doesn't have to happen immediately.
Yeah.
Once you're here.
Right.
Now they're getting it. Your approval to work.
Right. I guess I just wonder if they came back multiple times, would that be a higher setup cost for getting the arborist out there to remove and everything?
Right. They are close, but the general problem with this, or may not be considered a problem to some, is that it's just that the houses are right up on top of the naturalized area.
Right.
In the case of number 59, I think it is, it's only like 25 feet of lawn area, and so there's a tree right there.
Yeah, there's a lot of big trees.
A lot of big trees.
I was gonna say, I would, I was thinking the same as you, I was thinking the cost of coming out, if they're coming out for 5, and then to have them come back in a year for another, and then a year after that for another, that is, that is a consideration. And the other consideration is and I have to say, I didn't go out, I only looked at the pictures, but double oaks in my experience are tricky,
Yes.
I had one near my house, and
It's absolutely true.
yeah, sometimes you cut it and it's fine, and then sometimes you think they're both fine, and you fill the center with concrete, or you wash it out, and so I would just defer to the arborist, because as much as I have quite a lot of knowledge about trees, but I'm not an arborist at all, so I would.
That was my concern, is that I didn't want to be the one to be making this decision,
Yeah.
and I didn't know he was a certified
Yeah.
arborist.
So I would defer to his opinion, but,
I guess I'd kind of lean towards that myself personally. What do you think, Laura?
yeah.
So the only thing that came to question is the letter that was sent to us. He indicated that they were each posed a potential risk to the home. Didn't really say why. I can see in the estimate there's a couple that are marked as dead, but the others, I want to know what the risk is, simply from the sense that they're very big and leaning in near the homes. I'm not quite sure. And what was the justification for allowing those to be on the list that you guys were going to pay for to get rid of? Because you could go.
Oh,
in
these are
there
the pictures you have.
with 100 trees
Right.
and not make a dent in what's close to the homes.
So here's 51, that double oak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was out at the.
You were there? Yeah, I wasn't out there.
Yeah, and those typically have they only have the root ball of one,
Right.
Right.
it's-
So you'd have to cut it and keep everything in place, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kept it well above the ground.
Well, he identified a lot of them that if they were to fall, would fall backwards into the wooded area. I had a tree that did that last year.
Right.
I called about it, but it's
fell backwards and it's a nice little home for critters or whatever. But the tree that I'm concerned of is dead, and it's
Yeah, I'm
laying,
more,
if it falls,
like I
I'm
said,
in trouble.
like there's a couple of trees that he identified as
birch?
dead.
In terms of the tree that's in the back of, I think it's 51, just a brief history of that. According to the homeowner, over 3.5 years ago, they did get permission. They said from the Conservation Commission, I don't know if that's true or not, that they could remove that because that is extremely close to their house.
Is this the one that's leaning?
Yes, it's
the double.
not
It's
only
the double.
leaning, it's growing over their house, actually.
Yeah, that makes
so
sense to me.
they wanted to get involved in this pass, if you will, and are a part of that. So that's, I tried to take a picture high enough so you could see it going, literally going over the house. In terms of 59, which is also a double, what do you call it, double trunk? On the forward trunk to the house, there's at least 2, well, there was 3 large dead
I can see this.
branches to it.
Branches.
One fell off into the backyard and we dragged it away.
Yeah, I think it's the 51.
Yeah, 51, yeah, I agree.
And that's right over his head.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's right, yeah.
I guess seeing
Yeah.
the
If
pictures.
you were to go out in the backyard of 59, you'd see somewhere between 5 and 7 very large oaks that have fallen since the complex has been built. There's that element that's of concern. There's the lean of it. There's the dead branches that are still there that I do believe would have to be taken down anyhow, since a
Yeah.
third one has already fallen.
Right.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense. I mean, that's
that's-
just kind
does
of
that
normal
answer your
pruning,
question?
right?
Yeah, I think honestly it's a question of what's your, what policy you guys wanna set when you're this close to the naturalized area.
Right.
That's part of the question that I'm raising here. I mean, we could have, by no means am I trying to spend your money, okay? You could have a list of 100 trees that are well within striking distance, forgive the pun here of this,
Right.
but of those homes.
Sure.
And so we have to be a little bit careful where we make the determination it's okay to take the tree down and not.
Sure.
It's not simply that it's now high enough that it could harm the construction of the home, if it came down.
Right.
There has to be something else that's sort of, to me, triggering why we need to take that tree. The one that's growing over the home and there's a couple of them with some pretty significant dead branches on them.
Yeah.
It's hard for me I'm not an arborist,
Yeah.
this time of year to know which ones are healthy and not.
That's easy.
When,
So-
in terms of your concern for the numbers of trees, you're absolutely right. There's probably 100 that close. We sent this information out to the community as a whole and asked who might like to participate in this. 8 trees, or I should say 8 residences originally, were cited as potentially dangerous trees. 4 of them are not in this request. Partly because 2 of them, somewhere around 3.5 years ago, had trees trimmed next to one another, and that was sufficient for their interest. The other 2 that didn't participate have absolutely dead trees. They're oak trees. They're about probably 8 to 10 inches wide. They are immediately on that buffer line, and they don't want to be a participant in this, and they're betting that it's going to fall back into the woodlands. That's all that. So we think that the 4 individuals that are participating right now are the ones who are in earnest. And could it happen again? I suppose,
Yeah.
But that's why there's 4 now, and we were just going on the advice that we received.
So the only thing I want to make sure is that we're not taking down healthy trees.
Healthy trees, okay, sure.
That's my,
Yeah.
I want to make sure we're not setting a precedent
Yeah,
that we're taking down healthy trees.
okay.
Because there's hundreds of them behind
Right.
each one of these homes.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of a smack dab in the middle of
Yeah.
a wildlife area there. Thank goodness, that's part of the charm
That's right.
of the area.
That's
so,
exactly right, yeah.
And we don't want to take down the
Yeah.
live nice trees either.
Yeah, so it seems like number 39, number 99 are.
Yeah,
it seems like
especially
there's
birches.
consensus.
Birches are prone to just snap up high too.
51, I guess I'd probably, looking at the pictures a little bit more and the discussion, I think I'd lean towards Andrea's recommendation about just removing the trunk that's leaning towards the house and leave it to the arborist to decide how far up to, I'm assuming there's some kind of balance situation with the roots and all that, because you got a lot of leverage from that arm on the root ball.
So may I ask, were you suggesting we just take half of that tree down? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
the one,
saying?
because one, it's either, it looks like from the picture, it's either straight up or leaning slightly towards the woods.
Yes, the furthest
And it looks like
one
it's
back is,
it looks like it's still a pretty healthy tree.
yeah.
And as long as they cut the other one, as long as they slice the other one, they can, it'll have the full root ball to itself.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was gonna say not to be that guy, but yeah, unfortunately, in the next couple of years, you're gonna see a lot more in this area. It seems like in the wet areas we're seeing
Right.
down in Bridgewater, it's like acres all of a sudden are just with all the excess rain in October, November last year.
Yep. No doubt.
Like the spring, I
And
got
then-
200 trees I gotta cut down. It's crazy. It went from none and no firewood to buying firewood to now more than you can.
Drowning in wetwood.
Yeah. Hey.
If it is
Alright.
determined that 59 is a healthy tree and should stay there, would it be permissible to at least trim the dead branches off?
Oh,
as
Oh,
maybe-
absolutely. I mean, is that do they
Absolutely.
need our permission to trim the branches that are dead?
Yeah, not at all, and at the same time, you can also give them a 3-year window,
Right. To trim dead branches from trees that are on the property borders.
Or
That are in the buffer
just to have written notification
Right.
of,
like you could even say on the double trunk one, if a year from now they start to see signs that isn't surviving the separation, then
Right.
they could have permission to take down the other trunk just by
Right.
notifying our agents
Right.
administratively that would be approved. I mean, I think that's probably the approach that I would take to this, is that, we're being prudent in our adjudication of this, but at the same time, I think giving the homeowners the permission they need to
Right.
do what they need to do.
Right. And do we want to word it in there that we give them permission to remove dead limbs from trees over those 3 years, or with written notification to the agent?
if you could even
Not
You can
not
even allow
specifically
it-
not
you can
specifically
even-
just these properties, but I'm just saying as the
in general.
development
Sure,
in general.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could say that's allowed
It's just
Anyways.
it's allowed, right? Yeah. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
if you want to.
Are you guys good with that?
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
How about for the,
For 59.
for people who haven't
Oh.
been part of this notification process, but are part of the homeowners association? If they, could this be considered a blanket approval for the association? If they have a certified arborist who, this guy should identify himself as such, he didn't.
Right. And notify you and just get
And it falls,
permission,
and it
administrative
falls, it
approval.
falls within certain parameters that you guys are looking for.
Right.
I'm not saying that for the town, I'm just saying that this is a
No, for this.
homeowners association.
Yeah. Yeah. So ongoing removal for the
I don't have a problem with
HOA
that.
with notification and administrative approval of the town agent.
And I'll come in and let you know.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
I mean, if we have an arborist telling us that these trees need to come down and then it's posing a risk to the homes, we don't wanna leave those up, so.
To your knowledge, if an arborist properly cuts the tree behind 51 and leaves the one that's sort of leaning back into the woods, generally speaking, that should work. Generally speaking, I mean, do you know?
Conceptually, it sounds like it should work. I guess I'm not an arborist.
Yeah, okay.
Sounds to me.
We'll have to rely on that. Okay.
Well,
Well,
once he
Draw a
once
force
he gets
balance
into that
diagram
trunk,
up in
it'll be
here.
able to tell you, because a lot of times,
Oh,
looking
right.
at it, we could all go out, look at it, it's living, it's breathing, it looks fantastic. I just helped clear a lot in Taunton, and all of a sudden you cut the tree and it corkscrews and and the whole middle is water rotted from the bottom up. You can't see it from the outside. You make a test cut on the outside to determine through the bark. It's fully live. It passes all the tests, and you just. But that's what those gentlemen do. They they have test bits and all that stuff.
Bore into it.
They have all that knowledge that they can draw upon. So.
So you recognize that if it were imminent threat,
Yeah.
it would be an after the fact filing. It would
Yeah.
be immediate.
Yeah.
Okay. That's in any case across town.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's only when it's isn't gonna fall tomorrow. And maybe is healthy.
All right.
that
Very
they come
good.
here.
Anything else on this one, guys?
Nope.
Nope. Would you guys like to
I
close?
think we're good. We'll
All right.
communicate with Andrea, and you can let us know specifically. If we have any questions, then.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
And if how did you contact your butters? In this case, your butters are the
It was
association.
in the same manner, the identical manner to the way in which we contacted them for the mailbox expansion. And what we did there is we did a couple things. We have two mailboxes, one in the front section, one in the back section. We laminated the notification to abutters.
Yep.
And we taped 4 of them onto the 2 mailboxes. In addition, we wrote a summary letter to the entire community of 44 homes, telling them what we were doing, and then including this as an attachment, so that if they wished, they could go directly to the website and look what was on the RDA. We mailed that out to them on the 15th. That would be the overview, along with the notice to the abutters attached to that. And then we, just to make sure everybody got it and everybody was clear on this, we emailed it out to them again, everybody in the community, on the 22nd. It was in the paper recently. I forgot when.
Okay, so-
All right.
Yeah.
Any public comments on Winterberry Lane tree removal? Seeing none. Would you like to close?
Please.
All right.
Yes.
Motion to. Is this a permit to work?
RDA.
RDA. Oh, all right. Yeah. All right. Motion to issue a negative RDA for numbers 39 and 99. Winterberry Lane, number 51. We're going to approve removal of the trunk that's leaning directly to the house, with the caveat that if the arborist does some testing and determines that the other limb is dead, then you got to do what you got to do. Number 59, and with for the rest of the development in the HOA, we are going to allow for removal of dead limbs ongoing, and we are also going to allow for removal of imminent danger trees on the border with notification and administrative approval of the town agent.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very
Have a
much
good
for your
night.
time.
Thank you. All right, 216 Bay Road.
So, Katelin Nover was
Oh, hi.
our peer reviewer. And she and I had a chance to talk today, but, come on up. Yeah. And I spoke to Scott
You did.
today as well, so that he was aware of what we found.
Thanks for joining us. If you guys could just state your names for the recording, please.
Sure, Scott Farrier from Holmgren Engineering.
Keith McLaughlin, applicant.
Thanks.
A butter notification?
Yes.
Thanks.
Pass those over when you get some keys.
Yes.
All right, go ahead and tell us about your project,
All right,
please.
thank you. Well, what we filed for you folks is a abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. Keith has a bunch of property out there on Bay Road, 4 existing lots that have been in existence for a long time. A lot of wetlands on them, kind of at the corner of Bay Road and Pheasant Lane.
We had the property delineated back last October, and, looking at the site, we kind of felt like there was a good chunk of upland area that would possibly be developable, so we had it delineated, located them, that's what you see before you on the plan. Since then, we went back to the planning board to redivide the lots on Bay Road with the single house, number 16 Pheasant Lane, just to redivide them to give us an opportunity to develop them in the future, so.
Is that lot A?
Yes, so we redivided the 2 lots on Bay Road and the 1 lot on Pheasant Lane into lots A, B, and C. So just before we got too far along with the whole approval process, realizing we've still gotta go to the planning board, we'd have to come before you folks for any kind of, permits to build, we figured we at least wanted to get the BVW locked down so we'd have a definite upland area and definite resource area that we're dealing with. So that's what we're here before you tonight. It's, as I said, there's a BVW, there's an intermittent stream that goes through the property, closer to Bay Road, maybe 100 feet or so back from Bay Road. There's a flood zone that's shown on the firm maps. So we have all those issues that we know are on the property that, may and may not come up and rear their heads during our permitting process. So we do know that we'd have to be back before you folks for any kind of individual permits, but we're just, like I said, hoping to get that line locked in so we can, accurately show what we have for uplands on the property.
Okay, and then, did I see in their notes that there was a potential vernal pool or 2 noted in here, Andrea, or?
I did not on this,
Okay.
there's
Maybe I was
actually
thinking of
4
something else.
undeveloped lots,
Yeah,
and not on these bottom 2.
okay, alright. Just look at the questions I had here. And were all the flag updates in the field completed?
So, the report from there, you wanna go into the details of what your consultant found before we go into
Sure,
flag
sure.
updates?
Sure.
Was,
Yep.
was
Again-
the tricky question there.
Yep. Our botanist was out there in October, flagged the BVW, which we have shown as A1 through A41, I believe, on the property. There was a little bit of an upland area on one of the lots that we didn't even really bother showing, just a kind of a small upland island that we didn't even bother showing on this one.
That shows up as flags B.
Right.
You confused me with flag Bs.
Yep. And he also made note of the intermittent stream. He didn't delineate the intermittent stream at the time, figuring that it was, the bank to the stream was more than 200 feet from the edge of the BVW, so whatever, whatever buffer zone, the 100 to 200 foot riparian zones would still be well within the BVW, so it wasn't really relevant to what we were doing or what we would be doing, so that wasn't delineated at the time. After we filed it, Andrea got in touch with us and, felt like there may be a couple of branches to the intermittent stream. So we did have him go out, maybe about a month ago or so, and look at the site again. Actually, it was less than that, just shortly, probably just 2 weeks ago after the snow melted. Look at the site again, and he flagged the intermittent stream, and we've since updated the plans and to show that intermittent stream, so that's
And then there's another group, the C layer is off the property to the north.
right.
And then the D series is the one that you see on Bay Road. When you're driving along Bay Road, it's a pink and black, is it? Or is it
Yeah,
orange and black?
I think it's orange and black.
Pink and orange and black?
Yep.
And you can see it off and on Bay Road. When I asked about that, I think that Scott may not have made it clear, but one of the reasons we're here is because the planning board has a requirement of contiguous uplands. You have to have an acre of contiguous uplands. And so they needed your wetland line confirmed, they needed their wetland line confirmed by conservation. There's a little bit of upland along Bay Road.
Oh yeah, just
But
a
it's
little corner.
questionable as to whether or not it's in the,
It
whether or
doesn't-
not it's in the right of way or on the property.
It's definitely on the property, but where it's not contiguous, all we're looking for you folks to do is to confirm the A series, A1 to A41. The other uplands on the property aren't contiguous, they don't have enough contiguous area, to help us at all, so, you know, the botanist did flag it, it does show up on his sketches, but we didn't wanna spend Keith's money locating it, cause it's, at least for what we're doing, it's kind of irrelevant, I guess, is the best way to
Yeah,
say it.
you guys are
So-
focusing on that back corner off
Exactly,
Pheasant Lane.
so we're really just focused on A1 through A41.
I guess, are you gonna end up accessing all 3 lots through Lot A, or
That would
an
be-
easement or
that's-
something?
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for,
Okay.
yes.
Alright, great. Anything else you wanted to bring up before we ask Katelin to comment?
No, I agree with what Katelin has to say, so.
Okay.
on the-
Katelin, would you mind just summarizing for us what you found,
Sure.
please?
So I went out to the site on, March 27th to
Mhm.
review the line in the field.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at, the bank flags and found that they were all accurate. Only a portion of the bank flags are actually on the subject parcels, so only those can be confirmed under the ANRAD. But I didn't see any problem there. As Andrea had stated, there was a branch off of the stream to the west, in between the stream and Bay Road. There's a small tributary, about 3 to 5 feet wide, that kind of split off at IB 103 and then connected back with the stream at IB 101. Of the A series flags, there were a couple areas that I did not agree with. The main area being A16 through A21. I was actually not able to locate A17 and A21 in the field. There was quite a few fallen trees down there, and I think they, during one of the storms, the flags must have
Okay.
Down
gotten
in the
lost.
storm.
Yeah, but based on where they're located on the plan, I didn't really agree with where they would be in the field. There was wetland vegetation and lots of evidence of hydrology kind of upgrading of the line in that area. And then also A10 I could not locate, but based on where it's shown on the plan, I think it's probably accurate. So I guess it was just that one area, that A16 through A21, that I didn't agree with.
And
And
I
is it-
can say that more, I can say that with a little more, visualization, is that for me to get to A19, today, I had to really skip through, trying to find rocks too, because it's just so much excess water around.
Oh, I bet.
So, you spoke with Scott earlier, and it could just very well be the difference in the time of year
Right.
that he was there. And is that something you also
Yes,
was expecting?
fall 2017 was definitely drought-like conditions.
Oh, yeah, we were still deep in the drought then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I located the flags, it was definitely dry, and I know what everybody said, it's definitely a little bit wetter now than it was then, for sure.
But even under these conditions where Katelin was there, under good saturated conditions, it's only the 16 through 22 that you're questioning?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I guess, are you questioning them in that you think it might be more of a direct connection between A16 and A21-22, or that that whole kind of contour would shift down a little bit?
I personally, I had thought that A16 could, move south about 5 feet and then kind of, just, bridge that connection.
Mm-hmm.
Straight line to A22 from there?
Yes.
Okay.
Approximately.
Right.
Because I thought A22 looked okay.
Okay.
So I think, seeing the connection out there would probably make sense.
Okay. Andrea, would you agree, disagree?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know if there's a difference in scale. Your plan here says 20, your notes say 21. I don't remember if it's 21 or 22, so if in the
22 is
plans,
at least more conservative, so we could
22 is
certainly,
certainly more
right, we
conservative.
could connect to 22, we'd be fine with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, so with that, I think it's probably valuable that Katelin more than myself, was out there, you know, in these conditions, because we saw something different
Yeah.
than they had seen earlier.
Oh, that makes sense. Everything's super wet right now. Okay.
Did you go in from Pheasant Lane or Bay? I went through Bay Road.
I would
Oh,
prefer
man.
Bay Road,
You
yeah.
went the wrong
Were
way.
you in your waders?
Through Pheasant Lane.
I parked, I know one of the, across the street, Gildersleeves. I parked there and walked across.
You did, you went in from Bay
the
Road?
wrong-
No, I did.
So did she?
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
She's the real thing,
It
man.
was-
You know, I
I went the other
Longer
time.
prior.
Everybody's
That's-
pheasant.
All right,
Wow.
Andrea, could you talk a little more to your comments on the bordering land subject to flooding?
Yeah, that one,
Please.
you know, this was one of my first land subject to flooding in Easton. This is just north of the corner of Pheasant and Bay Road, where we had a septic upgrade.
Oh, yeah, they had the emergency situation.
Emergency
Yeah.
situation
Yeah,
where we let the septic get approved while we struggled with mounding.
If you don't mind, did you walk by the pipe and did you see if it was blocked up or clear?
Oh, no, it's flowing. It's flowing, you know, and again, I drive by it to get home because I live at 159 Bay.
Right.
And that mounded system is working fine, the street drain, everything is, there's never anything in the yard.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
good.
pet hole is working as the engineers advertised,
I don't
so.
know if I can say anything. I live
If you could
in
just
Fort-
introduce yourself.
I'm sorry, Andrew Thomas, I live in Fort Pheasant Lane,
Mm-hmm.
behind the property that you're speaking of.
Yep.
There is water in their yard.
In the back or I only see the front. I mean,
In-
so I
in-
see Pheasant, the front
Right,
corner.
in the, behind the septic,
Mm-hmm.
They had
between
puddles.
my property and their property.
Oh, yeah, okay, so you're the next.
I'm the next house in on Pheasant Lane.
Yeah.
There is always standing water in their backyard.
Yeah.
So.
But was
I've
that
seen
before or after? Before and after the septic?
I think it's more pronounced now after the septic.
And that is also what Dave, the engineer, had anticipated,
Right.
is that it would stay
Yeah,
on the
because when you're
property, but
driving
be
by
there.
or you know,
Yeah,
you
you
slow
will
down,
see it.
Yeah.
you only see that front
So,
corner.
Thank you.
for
So sorry to
Kevin, you
interrupt,
may be
Andrea.
familiar with this, but there's this culverting system is questionable, and so there's a lot of flooding, and also you don't see it on this plan, but probably on the corner lot, there's also a side area which clearly floods, right adjacent to the culvert, and it looks like there might be some ditches in there. And that was the section I was thinking of, and I didn't know how far back that went in. So, long story short, the bordering land subject to flooding, I really question whether or not the FEMA line is accurate.
Do we have the
given-
FEMA line on the map?
Yeah, it is. It's a distance, 121.9, 142.7.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
I really question whether it's accurate for what's happening in the world here,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not identified to a known elevation.
Oh, and it probably doesn't take into account that the culvert and
The
the piping
culvert's in
down because you
place.
see it continues on right through the
Right.
property still. Okay.
Right, and so we don't know what kind of constraint that culvert put in.
And you're
And
talking about
We
cumulative
never
effects?
found, and we never found any flood study done
Mhm.
for this area.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you do in that situation, Katelin?
Well, you can require an applicant to perform a flood study.
Mm-hmm.
Flood studies are quite expensive. You know, sometimes there have been studies that have been done in the past, that you can kind of use that are in the same area. But in this case, I agree with Andrea in that the FEMA mapping doesn't appear to really describe what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that our regulations allow is using topography and the observations from a competent source identify the extent of flooding. So it would be keeping a professional eye
Mm.
on the wetland line.
Right,
Not the local neighborhood, but the,
Mhm.
but
And I think no matter what we call it, it's not gonna extend further than the BVW. If you just look at the topography, and again, we don't have the topography on the plan, but the uplands is, a couple feet higher than the wetland area. The flood maps, it's a graphical location, as Katelin said, where they haven't done a flood study. They haven't done flood studies everywhere in the nation, so you're stuck. So you got some guy in Washington that's just drawing a line 100 feet from either side of the stream, and that's the flood zone. So, but I mean, that's what a lot of it is based on. So the alternative, as Katelin said, is to do a flood study, which is, it's cost prohibitive for a project of this size.
Yeah.
It's not gonna expand beyond our site parameters, so I don't know that it's all,
What scope of cost have you guys seen for flood studies?
well, the problem is you've basically gotta find the points of restriction, so you're saying there's one here. Then you have to go upstream or northerly to find the next one, so it could be 100 feet or 2 miles before you find the next one.
Right.
And then you have to do a topographic survey to come up with that whole watershed area going into that. I mean, it's a boatload of work for one guy looking to build a house or two on. It's
How much does Stream Stats help? It's
For a
It's a
flood
free
study?
service, yeah.
yeah.
It'll give you watershed size.
It would give you the watershed size, but I think there's a lot of other things that go into a flood study that, stream stats wouldn't really give you. Like Scott was saying, you use existing conditions that you find in the field, like the culvert that may be restrictive, other things, that you'd have to locate in the field.
And is stream stats essentially crowdsourced data, depending on who, people making reports?
I
Or is
believe
that a
it's,
different one?
I believe it's, run through the government.
Okay.
USGS has,
Yeah.
they've got sampling gauges up and down, and so they're kind of extrapolating from the last gauge.
Yeah.
I don't know where the nearest one is in Easton.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So the
So that's something I think we're gonna have to
bordering
chew on
maps
a little
under the
bit.
flooding makes me nervous.
Mhm.
What I was recommending was that there might be insufficient information to make that determination. And
Yeah.
that when he comes in for a notice of intent
Right.
for housework, that he maybe gives us more information at that time.
Okay. Yeah, and I think
Whether or
I'll
not it's a
probably have
full
to
study or
factor-
not is really putting them on notice that
I mean, again, I think that,
localized observations.
I mean, I understand, but
Yeah.
I mean, if it never gets beyond the BVW, I mean,
I
guess
think
what I'm
I think
asking is,
it's.
does it matter?
I don't think we're going to be asking you to do a flood study right now.
Right.
I think what it's going to key into is, potentially, higher scrutiny of the resource areas and the buffers
Sure.
when proposing actual
Yeah.
dwellings and appurtenances on the properties. And, the commission has some discretion on how tight to stick to the line on some of these
Sure.
things as far as, and with mitigation and all that. We might just need to, considering cumulative effects on what we're seeing right now, when the greater project comes before us, might need to just make sure we're a little more, strict with some of the interpretations.
So Scott, with topography, it would make a big difference. But there's definitely a grade change from Bay Road to, the backside of, whatever that North Street is, not Pheasant. There's definitely a grade change that way, but once you're in Lot A and Lot B, it's not much of a grade change. Going from, if it floods the whole wetland area,
Mhm.
it's not gonna take much water to go beyond the line.
You don't
And
have a topo
we saw
handy for
that
do you?
already happen between the
Yes,
times
it's-
it was flagged by your
Just wondering
consultant
if you
and
have
we got
I
out
don't have it.
there.
I have it done, but I didn't include it in this where we were just looking for that line, so.
Okay.
Can I talk about the intermittent flooding? I have pictures here.
Sure, if you don't mind just introducing yourself, please.
Walter Sanibel Dews at 8 Pheasant Lane.
Mhm.
And what this picture show, the flooding behind 12 Pheasant Lane
Mhm.
and
With your 4 Pheasant Lane.
4 Pheasant Lane. The parcel that you're referring to floods, then it
Mhm.
comes onto our property. There's one stream that goes on to 12 Pheasant Lane, comes onto my property, 8 Pheasant Lane, and it goes out to the street into the source system of the picture.
There's another
Did-
stream
yeah,
at
my chair.
8, did you say?
8 Pheasant Lane.
Okay.
12 Pheasant Lane, it's in the back, on the property you're referring to, the subject property. Then it comes on to 12 Pheasant Lane, and I'm downhill, so it goes into my property, 8 Pheasant Lane.
Scott, would you mind if I had
I have
him,
pictures here.
if I had
Can
him
we
draw
take a peek?
that on on a plan I have here?
I'm not sure
I
what
wanna
we're
just
drawing,
know this
but-
for the future.
Yeah, I just don't know what we're drawing. You know, a stream like you, I mean, there's not a stream like the stream that was flagged.
The
It may
internet
be,
stream, but it causes a lot of problems all when it's raining.
I'm just not sure what we're drawing, but
Some, you know, this town, it doesn't have to be much to be an intermittent stream. I'm just gonna leave this over here for you. I'm gonna leave it in front of Mr. McLaughlin.
Sure.
So, just so it's something to inspect later.
So the flooding from those Bay Road lots comes onto Pheasant Lane. 12 Pheasant Lane, 8 Pheasant Lane, and 4 Pheasant Lane, and also the property on the corner, which is on Bay Road, where they put in the newest septic tank. We're all subject to flooding, this temporary stream from the property on Bay Road. And I have the pictures here. I'll
What,
show-
what
show it to
number,
you.
8, you said 8, there's another stream, you see?
Pardon me, there's 2 streams.
Mm-hmm.
One stream is on 12 Pheasant, and it comes onto my property, 8 Pheasant. It goes down a boundary line out to the street, into the sewer system.
And is this, you know, something that flows when there's lots of rainfall in the wet
Rainfall,
season, summer it's
snow.
dry?
Snow, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Flows a lot.
Um,
And then there's another stream that comes through my property, the 8 Pheasant Lane, and it gets directed behind 4 Pheasant Lane, and it goes into the culvert, like that culvert you're talking about, I'm assuming.
Yep.
The drain goes into the little river.
yeah, yeah, looking at like a topo map that I can find here, that everything north of there kind of just funnels down.
Funnels into our property.
Yep.
So they're the high ground and we're the low ground, and that's gonna affect, if it changes, it can affect our septic system and all, everything else.
Well, right here, I don't think they're proposing any, you know, this is basically, this meeting is for identifying the wetland resource areas and their boundaries,
Right.
not necessarily for doing any specific work and like changing grading and all that.
No, I understand.
Your concern is definitely valid. I mean, especially with the situation we saw with that emergency septic and how everything kind of gets plugged up or was getting plugged up at that pipe there.
Yeah, so here's the picture, this is behind,
Are you giving these to the commission for
Yes.
the record?
I can give you more, but this is
That
behind
is wet.
12, 8 and 12 Pheasant Lane. This is how it comes through the wall.
Do they have titles on them?
I can do that for you.
Okay. Yep.
This is the stream that's on my property, 8 Pheasant Lane. It's coming from Bay Road property.
And this is the one that happens seasonally?
Yeah. Sometimes, once it happens in summer, sometimes.
Okay, it could have been because of
Yeah.
the droughts we've had. And it's
Yeah,
been
yeah.
really
No,
wet
I'm gonna
last
go,
year.
think
I'm
so.
gonna go out back.
Yeah.
I'm
See
gonna
a
go in
ditch
front
when
of
you're
the
not,
present
when it's
this
not
time.
raining?
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Can you see where the water
Yeah.
stays when
This
it's
is the
not?
ditch here, because his property on 4 Pheasant Lane, he's had to like, change the land in order for the water to flow.
Excellent creativity.
That is great.
Well, a lot of that was there before we got.
Hey,
sorry,
use
just wanna see
it,
some of
use
this.
it, right? It
I
worked.
mean, it's hard to say what it
Nothing
is.
wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm only
Okay.
trying
Well,
to get a
I
sense
think
of
these
where they're
pictures
located.
kind of go back to the validity of the comments around the floodplain,
Right, so this is-
because clearly it's spilling over and it's finding any contour along that funnel that it can.
There's another one that's coming through my yard, see
Yep.
all from the wall,
Mhm.
comes all the way down my property line.
Sure.
See? Into the
Just
sewer,
a
this is the last thing I'll show you.
Okay.
Pictures. See, it comes down into the sources.
Oh, there we go.
And the other one.
And is this the one? Is
How
that?
frequently has this happened in like the last couple of years?
You can speak now.
I can speak to that
It's
point.
been a year.
Okay,
Your name?
you wanna identify yourself?
Bridges, Robert A., 12 Pheasant Lane,
Mm-hmm.
Robert?
Robert. We have a sump pump since day one. We've been living at 12 Pheasant Lane since 1970. Most of the time, the pump is running, rain or no, almost constantly. Sometimes, if there's a relatively long, dry spell,
Mm-hmm.
it may actually stop. We've invested, as have all of the other people in this room, a lot of time, energy, money in dealing with a water situation that is underground as well as on the surface. And as we speak right now, it's running, and it's running constantly.
Yeah, no doubt about
And
that.
it's a concern, and we have a maritime backup pump, battery rather, and if we lose power in town, and only recently I have invested in a generator in order to deal with that possibility. All of us have had water in our basement, not just from rain. And it's been a concern that we haven't complained too much about, because you roll up your sleeves, you do what you have to do with your property. But
So the surface water that's described by the pictures, how often does that happen? Like over the last couple of years?
You couldn't count.
Yeah, you couldn't count.
yeah, frequently enough,
Some
yes,
pumps
and
always running.
we've
Yeah, I'm
kidding
not
in
talking
the
sump
neighborhood.
pump here.
Excuse
I'm
me?
not talking sump pump. I
No,
wanna-
no.
The surface
I just wanna
flow.
make sure that the question that I'm asking gets responded to is, so how often does this surface water that makes its way out to Pheasant Lane from this property? There's a lot of water on there right now, so I can imagine if we got a good rainstorm, it would start running. I just wanna know, how often does that happen? Once a month? Once every 3 months?
No, in the winter, it's much more than that.
Yeah,
It runs for days, days.
keep building your case, more than that.
It's not my case.
So
Well, it's our case, but
so is it dry 5 days a month, or is it?
Depends on the season.
So you got so you might have an inch of rain coming on Wednesday, what would happen? When it's already flooded now, as we can see by these pictures.
well, the pumps are gonna keep running.
The pump-
And the water will appear on the surface, but we understand there'll be runoff because of the elevations. A little bit of topographic, probably the approach is a very good one that you made reference to, because there are slight elevations where we live on Pheasant Lane. And that certainly doesn't deter, because they're all moving toward Pheasant Lane. It doesn't deter the movement of water that's on the surface. But our concern is, I think, more so with the water that's also underneath.
Excuse me, my name's Marshall Dost. I live at 20 Pheasant Lane,
Mhm.
up toward the corner there. There's also seasonal water between my house and 12 Pheasant Lane, the property that Ms. McLaughlin bought. And that just comes down between the two properties and goes up over the road curbing and just runs down the street towards these folks. Their culvert down there, which is it's not a funny thing, because it happens, and it does happen all the time. I also have a sump pump. And thankfully, most of the time that has worked. It continues to work now, but I did, when the power went out for 3 days last year, I had 18 inches of water in my basement.
I had flooding also.
Yeah, and I'm sure we all
Yeah.
did during that stretch, so
So
there's a lot of water there.
I appreciate all the concern.
Both sides of the property.
Yeah, I do appreciate all the concern. What we're talking about today, as far as the ANRAD goes, isn't going to have any direct effect on that one way or the other.
Okay.
But you'll want to pay attention to other filings related to the property then, for sure. When it gets time to actually officially, are the lots officially split up like this now, or is this proposed?
No,
That is
they are.
official, okay.
Yep.
And not just with our commission. And you might want to, write to the DPW Because we know that there's an issue with that pipe down, there was an issue with the pipe down at the corner, and there were questions of whether it could handle all the flow from everything that's funneling down there, and I guess the more they hear from folks,
The
probably.
unfortunate thing is that the land slopes down from Brentwood
Yep.
Drive all the way down to Bay Road.
Sure.
And it comes through all of our properties.
Yeah.
And our biggest concern is that if there is any kind of septic put in, any kind of water put in, that it will alter the flow of the water that's there now, and we already have problems.
So yeah, those concerns will be critical at the stage in this project where they have a notice of intent, where they have actual potential, if there's going to be grading, if there's going to be houses, what have you. That's the part of the discussion that will actually have effect upon the water and the flows and where things come from and go. But
Where's that NRED line with Pheasant Lane?
sorry.
Does that show the water at Pheasant Lane, behind Pheasant Lane, or lots in Pheasant Lane? Your line on the NRED.
So,
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
You said that's
The-
what we're gonna
Right,
vote on.
the line that we're looking at is the line of wetlands vegetation
Right.
and wetland soil, which has nothing to do with the surface water that's going from Brentwood, in a westerly direction towards Pheasant Lane in the corner of Pheasant and Bay Road. That's surface water that's draining that way based on topography. What we're looking at is to approve the wetlands vegetation from A1 through A40.
Right, but
The
well, so
water
the
naturally
ANRAD, we're also
flowing your way.
we're also supposed to identify all the resource areas that are on the property pertinent to the project. And I mean, Andrew raised the concern initially, and the residents are raising the concern about that talks directly to floodplain.
Except it's
So-
overland flow is what they're saying. The water goes from Brentwood and flows, the
Right.
topography supports the land going from Brentwood, flowing in a southwesterly direction towards Pheasant.
so the
So when
concern,
you've got groundwater at 12 inches, which is what you've got out there, the surface water, when we get that inch of rain tomorrow,
Right. Well, so we're
it can't
talking.
go in. So
But
it's
you're talking
surface
about
water.
a floodplain that's not identified.
But that's just surface water. That's not necessarily floodplain. It's surface water during a rainstorm, during a storm event.
We're saying it's underground water, not just the surface.
That's what I said. You've got groundwater at 12 inches,
Do you have anything
exactly,
to add,
which is
Paul?
why you have a wet basement.
I guess all I would have to add is that the resource area borderland subject to flooding is actually, it would be from where the wetland boundary stops to where the edge of flooding ends. And from what I saw out there, I think there's potential for there to actually be borderland subject to flooding, perhaps behind, 8 Pheasant Lane and 12 Pheasant Lane. But again,
That's up to
that's
the
a little
wall.
bit above my pay grade. I think that's something that should be definitely looked into, if the notice of intent is filed. I guess that just brings you back to Beta's recommendation of, not confirming
Anything but that A
flood
series.
zone at this time,
Okay.
yeah, or not confirming the zone A.
Gotcha.
as the floodplain, as the
Gotcha,
borderland subject to
And
flooding.
right.
yes, dealing with that issue separately if a notice of intent is filed.
Right. Okay. Yep. That's good.
Just another aside, I'm sure you've seen the FEMA map, but it says that this, where this, property is Bay Road, these lots, it says area of minimal flood hazard, they call it Zone X. So this has been identified as sort of a flood area.
Yeah, that's what
Where the
Andrew was
parcels
talking
have no
about.
effect, I'm just saying that this is.
Yeah. No. And we talked.
All the parcels were considered to be hazard.
Well,
It says
a
area
portion of it,
minimal
yeah.
flood
So,
hazard.
if I could, that was part of what Andrea was talking to earlier. Is the FEMA floodplain as identified by FEMA is identified on here, but we think that it might not necessarily be accurate. So,
Well, you see the water there, so that's what water is. It's on the
Yeah.
surface, that's a flood.
no, we appreciate it. We
Alright.
appreciate the concern.
You see the water on that land when you go.
Message received.
So, Scott, what I was looking for was whether or not I'd be able to, through their annotating this map, whether or not I'd be able to see any ditching or any signs of less significant streams from the one that is
That
so
was flagged.
clearly
Sure.
identified. Because it could come up in not, it could, because I want to know where they are in case we need to.
Sure.
At least we need to know where they
No,
are.
if there are, streams out there other than what we've got shown on their properties. We'd like to know where they are as well.
Yeah,
We didn't see any, our botanists didn't see anything, I don't think.
right,
Not that we're necessarily looking for them, but you folks didn't see any either, so.
right.
If they're
Right.
there, it'd be good if one of us saw them.
Right, so you can just mark them on here, and as you walk out the door, and I have your names, and if this comes to a proposed house lots, there's gonna be grading, and there's gonna be septic, and the issue could raise itself then
Mhm.
in more significant. Now we don't need to know it, we're just saying it's not gonna be straightforward. This isn't it's not gonna be, it's gonna be, have to be decided later.
So just so I understand a little bit, if you wouldn't mind me speaking.
No, please.
So we're,
This is Kevin.
Keith.
Keith
McLaughlin,
McLaughlin.
yeah.
Got the K.
So, my family owns the land that wraps around this area, there's a stream through our property, and, you know, we've been aware of the water shedding in this direction, we've been there for 40 years.
Mhm.
So we just looked at this as an opportunity to, you know, build a couple of homes here, redevelop the house that's on Pheasant Lane, and obviously there's opportunities to change the water flow. I don't know how we do that from the areas we wanna develop. We certainly will never contribute to excess water towards the other area. We can contain that
Mhm.
in these upland areas. I don't know how we can stop the flow, I guess, along Bay Road with the whole FEMA maps that say that it's a flood-shed area. I don't know how to offer a solution for that, but I guess
But you're
our
open
intent
to
would be.
exploring solutions to better control the flood
We will
waters.
control everything within our means,
Mhm.
in the upland area,
Right.
and we're open to suggestions. That's as an open, I mean, it's an open book for us to listen to what you suggest.
Right, and
That's
I think that what the chair has indicated here is that when you come before us with an NOI for these homes, you need to be able to address those things.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
contain,
So
no
that's
question.
his, and
We will
he's
not
trying to
make it
explain this
worse,
to the
but I don't know how to
butters
make
as
it
well, which
better.
raises
Yeah.
their concerns,
I
which are
appreciate that.
perfectly valid. That it's, you know, the intention here is to protect not only, you know, your right as landowners, but their rights as landowners as well.
No question.
And as an overall protection of the wetland resources.
Yeah. That's our opinion. I'm
Okay.
just more on board.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's helpful. All right, so I guess, Andrew, so we've got the A series. We're gonna move A16 south 5 feet and connect it to A22.
You wanna do that, or you just
Right,
wanna,
so we're
or
cutting
you wanna have it
straight
go back
across-
out?
we're
No,
going
we're good
straight
with that.
across,
Yeah, okay.
instead of.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, just
Yeah.
We're
bring
fine
that
with
down, then
Okay.
boom. Do you think we should be identifying some of these other potential intermittent streams at this point?
Katelin had, under our recommendation number 7, limit your decision to the top of the stream bank, and Katelin said, that would be flags B10, IB10 through IB16, and then on the other side of the bank, it'd be IB100 to IB106.
But I mean, some of these other, potential intermittent streams that are in some of the abutters' properties.
I would say that it's just that location, those flag locations, and then the A series flag locations.
Is all that we're confirming.
Yeah, and then you could go on to say there's insufficient information to make determinations on the other resource areas.
Right. But making that determination does not prevent us from saying, hey, there's, part of the NOI, saying, hey, there's an intermittent stream here and here, we
Right.
need to add those, and we're gonna take them into account.
This single intermittent stream was identified. And if we say,
Anything else that pops up is
Yeah,
fair game, basically.
You can acknowledge in the ORAD itself or potentially on the plan that, the applicant and the town acknowledges that there may be additional resource areas on the property.
Right.
Can I speak one more time?
Please.
Only because we control so much land all the way up the area of question. If you had said to us,
divert some of the flow of water to a main that's pre-existing main area that might shed some water to relieve maybe this area and have the water come this way. We're in control of all this land. And if you said to us, you know what, it would do us a favor to create some culvert
Yeah.
in this direction to have the water come through a mainstream area to be more efficient for the neighborhood. I'd like to offer that as, we're open-minded to that suggestion. I don't know how that works.
Your engineer knows that it's costly to do
I
that.
think that's the opening.
That's called a
Pandora's
flood study.
box.
All right, well, I don't know.
But it-
So I'm naive about
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
right? So I'm like looking at a simple, you know, maybe I'm thinking about it too simply. He's gonna
No,
tell
I
me to
think-
shut up, but I'm just being honest, like,
Well,
we
It'd be
have
nice if they
control of
said
the
yes,
land.
but-
And
You're open to, you know, looking at the bigger problem and doing a cost-benefit analysis of looking at some potential solutions to improve the water flow for the whole neighborhood.
Okay, I take that back then. I rescind everything I said. But you know what I'm saying, I just,
Yeah.
whatever, I'm looking at the big picture and it's like, we can help, we'll help. That's
Yeah.
all.
There may be an opportunity.
Yeah, there might be.
But we're only looking at 3 little lots, so it's not like I'm asking for a 12-lot development where I can, you know, spread costs around, it's not like that either.
Right.
It's very
Right.
limited.
Yep.
I wanna make that point clear.
Yeah, we're ready to start a municipal bond series for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So under 8, the insufficient information to make a determination, identified stream classification bordering land subject to flooding, not all BBW flags were located on the revised plan. I spoke earlier, with the applicant's representative about, you might wanna specifically say, you're gonna assume there's no upland along Bay Road.
Yeah, I saw it in here, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then the 4th bullet, Katelin just added, there may be additional resource areas on the property that, we're unaware of at this time.
Is yet to be identified.
The default.
May I submit just a few other pieces of paper?
Sure, we have,
Assessor's office,
sorry?
few other pieces of paper from the assessor's office.
Sure, what do you have?
It shows like the stream behind 4 Pheasant Lane, see right there? And it shows the swamp area, I'm 8 Pheasant Lane, it shows that there on the assessor's map. So this is the Bay Road property on the 8 Pheasant Lane on the side.
That's already part of the application.
Yeah,
Those,
okay, but
those
just showing the
plans.
assessors have
Right,
that.
those assessors, that information is in the baseline information here.
Oh, I'm just saying that.
Could you take those pictures and label them, because they're really
would be
great.
I will.
Yeah,
I
just,
no
could you
problem.
just, and then keep them here.
Yeah, no problem. So I
Mike,
just
do
wanted
you
to
have
show
any
the
comments on this
midstream
No,
shown on
I'm
the
good.
assessors map, it's
I
not
wanna
just
go
where,
back
where,
up
we're talking about it.
Pheasant Lane, not
This
this
is what
road.
the assessors, this is what the
Yeah.
assessors show. That's why I'm
And I know
presenting
the
it.
paths,
Roy, do you have anything else?
you know, at least the
No,
basic paths I
Do we want
remember.
to see finish line before approval, or do you think we're comfortable
Thrown in a lot.
saying that, hey, you move the A16 effective to
I think it's
A22?
conditional upon that.
Right, okay. All right,
I mean, it doesn't get issued until that's
Right.
done.
right. All right, is there any other public comment on this one?
I got one last thing.
All right.
Andrew Thomas?
Andrew Thomas, 4 Pheasant Lane. I don't know how many of my neighbors are paying flood insurance, but I know I am. I know the corner of Pheasant Bay Road are paying for flood insurance.
Not surprised.
My biggest concern is that no more water is directed to the abutters' properties. I mean, I have family that made livings, building houses, construction. So this is a good thing for some people, but I don't need it to affect my property and the neighbor's property.
Gotcha.
I don't
No.
need my flood insurance to keep going up.
So that's the same vein, you know,
I-
message
that might be the
received.
next meeting,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
that's.
want it on record here, I'll
Yep.
say it again. And will we be alerted by mail to further meetings by the town?
Or
is
further
this- we have
filings?
to?
If there's a notice of intent.
Yeah.
Any,
Yeah.
any filing requires a butter notification.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so thank you all for coming in. That's greatly appreciated. Are you guys good?
Yeah.
I made a request about
Yep.
demonstrating
Just-
car bridges. There you go.
Keith,
Dude,
The DEP
Okay.
And just.
would you guys,
Where I set the options.
Can you see the addresses, just generally
No
lines
comments.
that we can go find later?
Scott, Keith, would you guys like to close?
Yes, please.
Okay.
You
Thank
can
you.
take it, we can get outside, we'll bring it back in.
All right, so
Oh, sorry.
I'm just gonna basically word it that we're gonna take the recommendations from the staff report, and we're gonna add in, the A series not being confirmed. No, that the A series, we're gonna move A16 south 5 feet connected to A22, conditional upon that for approval.
Yeah, he's like
The specific wetland flags as part of the commentary for the Bay Road, stream are IB 10 through 16 and IB 100 through IB 114. And then there may be additional resource areas. Anything else you guys wanna include in those?
No, I was following along as you made the notes.
Okay. Alright. Overhead. What's the
I
decision on
completely
that?
read the
Is that,
same about the land because Frank,
is that negative,
the
positive?
first hearing we had.
Yeah,
just
just
issuing it over.
Okay, thank you.
And my brother's on.
All right,
my brother's on meeting as well, and they're all wrong.
Motion to issue an ORAD for 216 Bay Road, with the recommendations noted in the staff report by Andrew Langhauser dated April 1st, 2019, with the following additions. The A-series flag, A16, shall be moved 5 feet south and directly connected to A-series flag A22. This approval is conditional upon a updated plan showing that being submitted to Andrea, to the town. And also clarifying that on her note for identifying the stream along Bay Road, that we were confirming flags IB 10 through 16 and IB 100 through 114. And also noting that there may be additional resource areas that are yet to be identified, and we'll have to deal with those on further filings.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks for your time.
See you again.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gail. Appreciate it.
Again.
Did you drive to here, get any shorter?
No.
Sorry.
Well, hopefully no traffic for you now. Thanks. All right. 348 Foundry Street.
Hi.
Mark, how you doing?
Good.
I forgot.
All right.
Okay, and,
Good, how are you?
my
I don't think we've ever had so much public comment on the project.
How's the night going? Good.
We're opening the hearing for the first time, so do you have butter notifications?
Hey. How you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Thank you for giving us a little freedom to talk about that.
Yeah. Oh, that was good. Good talk. So that vernal pool must be deep right now.
Oh, yeah. All three of them.
This one is, oh, yeah, wow.
I suspect that there's one way in the back of my property, but I can't get to it because it is heavily
Yeah.
guarded by briars.
Is it? Yeah.
Oh man, it's like,
A wall.
yeah, an absolute unit of a wall.
Yeah, they'll introduce themselves when they start. site is too big for the screen.
We need a bigger screen.
Yeah, you need one of those 55-inch.
Yeah, but yeah, why do I
One of those on my
open
work
myself
computer.
up?
I hated it at first, but now I can't live without it.
We got funds. How much Facebook drama can we stir up? They bought what? All right.
Did I miss the abutter notifications?
Those.
I'm the one who's just waking up here, Frank.
I ran out of caffeine. This is not good.
Yeah.
Books that were sent, the green cards, and the ones that people didn't want to claim.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Bring us up to speed.
Introduce yourself.
Frank Ryblin with Ryblin Surveyors, representing the project at 348 Foundry Street. The owner and applicant is Center Street Realty, LLC. The address is 348 Foundry, although there's no work being done anywhere near Foundry Street.
Yeah,
The entire
yeah, that's right.
access is coming in off of Bradford Street.
Right.
We were before this commission back in 2017, at which time we got the wetland line accepted. The wetland line was accepted for the site, all except the most northwesterly portion of the wetlands that we knew we'd never be doing any work over in that area. So although there is a other side of the wetlands, that was not delineated. The site is accessed, as I said, from Bradford Street. The applicant has a 20-foot wide easement that he has purchased from the abutter, the Hansons. He proposed to put a driveway in from Bradford Street to a single-family home that will be located in the upland area, septic system in the front. Based upon some of the input from the agent, we have revised the plan. I believe the agent has seen the revised plan. The revisions that were put on the plan includes dry wells for the roof downspouts, and we have noted that the driveway pavement is to be pervious pavement. We are in an ACEC. It is also in a habitat area. Natural Heritage has responded that there is no taking. We have submitted that documentation to the commission. Because we are in an ACEC and we are proposing to put some impervious surfaces within the 50-foot, or excuse me, within the 100-foot buffer zone. We're not working within 50, but within the 100-foot buffer zone. As mitigation to the town and a benefit to the town, the applicant proposes to give a gift to the town of land in the amount of 3.71 acres. This land contains both upland areas and wetland areas, including a rather large potential vernal pool and intermittent streams. This land directly abuts another parcel of land that the Conservation Commission already owns. So it will be joined up to that other land. Soil tests have been conducted. We have good soils on site for the septic system. There is, obviously with any site, there's some filling in the front yard, but it's not extreme. As I previously stated, there is no work whatsoever within 50 feet of the wetlands. We do have here with us Mark Manganello from LEC Environmental. He can also add input and answer any questions that you may have regarding the wetlands and our wildlife habitat on the site.
All right. Give us your thoughts, please.
Yes, sure. So as Frank said, we initially walked the site when we delineated the wetland boundaries on the property. That was back in 2017. After this notice of intent was filed, we saw the initial comment letter from the agent with a specific comment regarding concerns about potential impacts to vernal pool wildlife habitat associated with the work that's within the 100-foot buffer zone to the vernal pool. So I went back out to the site and had another walkthrough since it's been a couple of years. I was just on March 20th. I walked it again. There's still a little bit of snow out there. Not much, but a little bit of ice on the vernal pools, but it allowed me to just sort of refresh my memory and make sure things were, or are the way they were. And so in in trying to evaluate potential disturbances to wildlife habitat that's unique to vernal pools, we're really focusing a lot on, obviously, number one, the pools themselves. Are there any direct impacts to them? There aren't, obviously, with this. I think the nearest point the project comes to an actual mean high water line to a vernal pool is about 155 feet. So, there's a very reasonable setback to the actual mean high water line. The second thing we're looking at closely is critical terrestrial habitat for vernal pool species. So most of you, probably all of you, are aware that the species that typically breed within vernal pools utilize upland habitat for a majority of their life cycle.
Mhm.
It's very important to them as a migratory pathway going to the pool each spring. So the most common species are spotted salamanders and wood frogs. They live in the upland areas, and in the spring they migrate to the vernal pools. So with that in mind, we were really looking at the project in the context of the overall land cover types around the development, where the development is positioned in the context of that, and how that may affect potential vernal pool species habitat. I wrote a report that touches on this, and just wanted to turn your attention to the graphics we attached.
Is that the supplemental
Got a
information?
couple of, supplemental information. There's actually two, one at different scales.
Okay.
So it just gives you a sense of the surrounding land uses, where this site is and where the project is. So just turning to this as a guide, the project's really consolidated down in this, I guess that's the southeastern corner of the property.
Mm-hmm.
The critical terrestrial habitat includes this area, but it includes all of this upland up here.
Right.
So we have potential vernal pool here, and here. So we have all of this available migratory habitat up here, and additional critical terrestrial habitat. The wetlands are included in that. In terms of percentages, I put some numbers to it in my report to talk about the square footage of the property that's going to be developed versus the amount that's going to be preserved.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers are pretty strong. I think it's about 86% that's going to remain undeveloped as a result of the project. So the conclusion we drew in the end is that this will have what we would call a de minimis disturbance on wildlife habitat on this property, because it's consolidated down in this southern portion of the property, and because so much of the property is going to remain undeveloped.
So question on the map, the work footprint, does that include what would be any backyard?
I was looking
On
at
the
that in the
property?
hallway, and I think it doesn't cover all of the backyard area, because you can see where the home is there. So the backyard would
Yeah, we're almost,
actually,
this is kind of the deck right there.
I think so.
So would it be,
Would actually,
would it, I guess, do you guys have a feel for would it follow the limit of work and just close the gap up there?
Basically, yes, it would pretty well close between, we stopped the siltation barrier at the limit of the buffer zone.
Mhm.
But I believe if you would just connect the two
Okay.
siltation control barriers, you would also see
Okay,
a
do
rear
we know
limit.
if the applicant would be amenable to having that define the yard area?
I don't believe the applicant would have any difficulty with that.
Yeah, because talking about the upland habitat, I mean, I know it's a small corner of it, but it also does seem to be the highest point. But it's also surrounded by a couple houses on either side too. So
Yep.
I'm not a wetland nor critter scientist. Mark, do you have a feel? Because I was curious about this myself, because there's some town-owned land right there, then we have the utility easement, and there's some more town-owned land with a whole bunch of other stuff going on across from that. Do you have a feeling, or do you know if there have been studies that look at if those kind of utilities easements with power lines overhead restrict migration of these species, or if they would potentially just scoot over that to get to some of the other resource areas?
I'm not aware of any studies.
Mhm.
My sense, though, is that they would cross it without being bothered, just the way they cross roads. I mean, we'll see dead frogs and salamanders in the road.
Good point.
Like,
And it's less traffic than, well,
Yeah.
hopefully less traffic.
right, there should be some
Than the
cover that
streets.
can go under the low-growing vegetation.
Okay. Michael, do you have any?
No,
breakdown
just
on
in
this one?
reference to your last question, I can speak of an area. a competing business owner owns a similar business up at the Maynard Gun Club, and they actually, part of the facility is shut down for part of the year for turtle crossing. So we're quite familiar with, and the area that they use for the activities is wide open and covered with the turf that I spoke of at a different meeting at the CPA. And they do now, rather than cut through, even though they are allowed and there is no human activity allowed for, I think it's 6 months. They actually now, instead of, so they're given that they can migrate and cut a corner. They don't. They actually make the 90. They avoid, again, they avoid us as much as we want to avoid them too. So it's,
Right.
This, what I love the most about it is, like Frank said, everything. Like both these guys said, everything's tucked in the corner, and then you got this beautiful lot to just whoever it is to can enjoy nature and
This is a helpful
what it's all
representation.
got.
Thank you.
Yeah, like that's. I mean,
Picture says 1,000 words.
And you've got the Google
you couldn't be
colors
more
and
de
everything.
minimis on this lot.
I would like to add, I believe the agent was concerned that the lot would actually meet the zoning requirements. We do right now have a special permit from the Planning and Zoning Board for an estate lot. If this goes through, in order to give the town the 3.71 acre parcel, we would be going back for a modification of that special permit. The remaining land that we have left that we'll be building on meets all requirements for an estate lot under the special permit. Namely, a special permit requires that you have 40 feet of street frontage. That we have not changed. The 40 feet of frontage that the original permit was granted for is the frontage out on Foundry Street, 106. Secondly, zoning requires that you have twice the area, which would be 80,000 square feet of contiguous upland. The parcel of land that we are leaving with this house has a little over 81,000 square feet of contiguous upland. So it does meet all spatial requirements for the estate lot permit. That is why we chose to place the line where we did for the division. We wanted to give the town as much land as we possibly could while still leaving our parcel as a buildable lot under the zoning regulations.
So just a couple of things. First is to address the habitat, the vernal pool habitat. There's, is there anything you can share with us about specifically in this case, whether or not they may be migrating towards that, upland where the house is gonna be located? I mean, it's hard for us to sort of say whether or not, I can't say, but I'm just saying, you're the expert, I'm asking you to suppose on that.
So whether or not, like, under existing conditions, they're actually passing through that particular area?
Yeah.
It's certainly possible. I think they would be more inclined to stay away from the development, the adjacent development, but I wouldn't say absolutely not.
Right.
No chance. Once this development's in place, though, it's not necessarily gonna be a barrier or a major
There's still
threat.
plenty of room for them to go wherever they want.
Yeah, I've got a little vernal pool in my backyard at my personal home, and I'm in a subdivision that is just kind of, there are roads on both sides of it and homes all around it. There's a lot of woods as well. They're like all 1 acre lots, and they just find their way through the properties. They'll go right across the lawn, right across the driveway, no problem.
So, so we don't know what type of species might be in these vernal pools?
No, there's been no specific study of the vernal pools.
Okay. The other question that I had was related to alternative designs for this property, and it's more of a
This goes back to the waiver request.
Right, so I don't know that we've been presented with any other alternative designs on this specific property, whether moving the house closer to the boundary of the property to get it out of any of the buffer zones as much as possible, decreasing that amount of pervious increase that's being done there. I don't know how that deals with it's a lot of shifting around, I know, but I don't know what's been considered. So the only plan that's been proposed to us is this one.
Right. And part of the waiver is, especially, is this ACEC?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Especially in an ACEC, it's a stricter standard of looking at alternatives.
Well,
And
they-
you can scold the applicant for not having that prepared, because he knows.
Basically, the design that we approached was to try to tuck everything as far into the corner as we possibly could. Any other options would have, oh, sure, you can move things 2 or 3 feet one way or the other. I'm not gonna say it couldn't be shifted, a couple of feet, but nothing significantly. Again, we tried to, with minimum setbacks to septic system and just accessing the home, we tried to keep everything as tight as we could while still honoring all 50-foot buffers and not encroaching anything into the 50-foot buffers.
Was any consideration given to, for example, flipping the location of the house and the septic?
We did play around with that, and it just didn't really seem to work on that. And again,
Any particular reasons why that wouldn't work?
well, the septic system being in the front, it does require the most amount of fill material because of the groundwater with the septic system. You start moving the septic system away from this location, you're gonna be placing more fill. Right now, the way it is now, we've got a full walkout on the back of the home to prevent any excessive fill in that area. If you put the house up here, then you'll be pushing the septic system back into that area, adding more fill in that area, which would actually be more intrusive.
Okay.
Was there any consideration given to having the driveway go straight into the garage's entrance on the front of the home?
I suppose that could have gone in, but again, you still have some sort of a turn over here for maneuvering. I won't say that couldn't have been done, but
I mean, I know it's not as aesthetically pleasing, but.
Exactly.
I'm thinking of it from a resource, staying out of the buffer zone. I mean, I know we've changed the material to pervious, which is a benefit, of course. So it's just greater maintenance for the homeowner and stuff like that, so. What could be done to verify the migratory routes of the habitat?
I mean, there's certain types of wildlife studies that can be done for some of those species. They're very costly, and it's difficult to sort of catch them while they're moving, if you know what I mean. So the way a vernal pool study typically goes is we go into the water like tomorrow and wade around, and we find evidence that they've laid eggs.
I've done it.
Okay, so you're familiar with
Yes.
it, so you know that. So that's the way it's usually done. I mean, once that's there, you can sort of draw conclusions regarding which species are there, and you'll know which species are there, and then you can determine likely migratory pathways.
Right.
But in terms of actually tracking where they're going,
We can't tag the tadpoles with a GPS.
They don't make game cameras now.
yeah. I mean, I was involved in a study years ago where we installed pitfall traps,
Right.
and sort of we caught them in the pitfall traps, and you could draw some conclusions from that, but those aren't really done anymore. And again, they are very costly, because someone has to check them every day, because they'll die in the traps if someone's not there to pick them out of the trap every day.
Yeah.
So, that would be the only thing I could think of
Right.
in terms of a study. And like I said, in this, we presume they do move through there on occasion. We're not saying they don't, we're just saying that the actual construction of that house isn't gonna significantly affect their movements or the population that are using those vernal pools.
Because they've got eight other acres to go.
Yeah,
Right.
and what's there
And-
isn't gonna, be a barrier or something that's gonna result in a high mortality for them moving through. They could still go right in front of the house over the driveway during the night, during that first warm rain in the spring.
So,
If it was a road,
This-
with traffic,
yeah.
a little bit different.
Now, I guess this makes me think of something that came up with the pudding stone, and so if we connect
Different side of town.
if we connect where the siltation fences end right now in the back and cap that as the backyard, we're maintaining some natural upland back there that they could cut from, you know, the vernal pool over to the isolated lands up to flooding and onward to the other lands. Is there anything that we could do along like this edge here as far as fencing goes that would, do they, if they encounter like just a straight section of barrier,
just
sort of like boom, take
direct
a
them
turn
that
and go
way?
around? Or do you think they're more likely to go over it?
I think, yeah, I don't think there's a reason to do that, again, because I don't
Okay.
see there being a high risk of mortality for them crossing this property.
Yeah.
You know, they're not gonna come out in the middle of the day when there are gonna be kids outside playing with, you know, playing
Yeah.
something like that. It's gonna be in the nighttime, in the dark, and they'll just zip right through.
Okay.
Fencing would actually be restrictive to most of your smaller mammal migration.
Yeah,
Your
exactly.
rabbits and
I've seen
squirrels
that at the Galleria Mall in Taunton. They have that. They have, it's like a piece of corrugated metal pipe, cut in half, and then embedded in the ground. So when an animal comes toward it, it's just like they run into an arced pipe sticking out of the ground. It's just a complete barrier for them. They can't get there. And I think it was spotted turtles, when spotted turtles were listed by Natural Heritage years ago. There was some sensitive wildlife there. They were trying to keep out of the parking lot. That's a different situation because, you know, they wander into the parking lot of the mall, that's certain death, pretty much. Whereas going across the driveway in a quiet subdivision, not such a big risk.
Okay. So do we want to request having some of these alternatives documented? Just so that we
Yeah,
done our
I was gonna bring that up. So the waiver request, the waiver letter, should address all the components of meeting the waiver requirement. So I guess I think we would request that the waiver letter be updated to note, you know, particularly the alternatives and the more detail there, the better, especially because we're inside an ACEC. I think what you talked to, you know, here was, you know, pretty good
Yeah,
considering.
I think explaining the fact that it's more fill and more
Yeah.
intrusive closer to the buffer zones, to move the septic to somewhere else is a good analysis.
Yeah.
I think we just need to have that documented,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's.
Yeah. And then I think, you know, it would probably be good to have some of what Mark talked about here as far as, and maybe that's in your report. Forgive me, I haven't read exactly the details, but you know, I don't know if you talk about how, you know, because you know we're in a quiet, you know, neighborhood at the end of a street, and they're more likely to be migrating at nighttime. That crossing over a driveway and through the yard shouldn't pose that much of a risk.
I don't think I got into that specific level, but it was more of a general comment that the development was unlikely to disturb the critical terrestrial.
So maybe in your letter you could reference what we talked about here tonight as part of, you know, evidence that it won't negatively impact the habitat and the species.
I mean, I think in general, you know, an expert like Mark's word to us, you know, carries a lot of weight. So we're just trying to get that documented somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And the proposed dwelling, is that do we know if that's a final footprint? Do we have any?
I can't guarantee that.
Okay. But it won't be any larger than?
No, that will certainly be the extent of it. I mean, you may have a bulkhead sticking out, but you know, nothing significant.
Okay. Do you want dimensions on the deck?
No.
I mean, right now it just says.
It's 12 by 10.
It's noted
12 by
on
12?
somewhere?
No, but it's scaled.
Oh, okay, alright.
Yeah, I read it in somebody's report, what it was.
Great, okay, perfect.
Oh, 12 by 15 is what I said.
Yeah.
Alright, so did you guys get to review the staff letter? The staff report?
Yes.
Are you agreeable to the conditions that she laid out for, you know, approving the waiver and project?
I did not have any objections to the suggested conditions that you put forth.
Okay. Alright, so I think we're on the right path here. We'll get the waiver letter updated. Andrea, anything else you wanted to address or add here?
No, I think they've used the time.
Yeah, actually, it was great to,
Yeah, to really bring in a lot of good information.
yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed in the decision, I was certainly very accepted their gracious offer of gift, and then I specifically spoke to, well, what about a CR on the upland of the property they have? Because I do believe that Mark's argument that the back area is really, the back area on the developed lot is really very significant. So I think you've been talking about putting in a limit of work that closes off this area, but do you actually want to put a conservation restriction on the back piece? You don't have to, it's still his land.
Right.
Just,
Restricting any further development.
yeah, I don't believe that in my personal opinion, if a conservation commission says, don't come in and ask for any further development, we've given you as much as we're going to ask.
Well, we've
I think
seen
it's
that
not
come
worth the
before
paper
us.
it's written on.
No,
We have to take every request
Yeah.
on its own merit.
Yeah.
So if you really mean you don't want them to develop any more than they're talking about today, then you might want to consider a conservation restriction.
I don't want a restriction.
I would like to see it.
Yeah, I think I'd lean towards it. I mean, we're talking about capping the lawn on there, but I think that would carry a little more weight. So, can you have that discussion?
I'll have to speak with my client on that.
Right.
No,
I can't speak for him without verifying
Now, correct
that.
me if I'm wrong, Andrea. So, if there is a conservation restriction in place, and the person wanted to go out and, I don't know, they wanted to go cut some dead trees for firewood, they would have to.
No, they would have to ask?
Yeah.
No. So a conservation restriction gives you the ability to work with the landowner. First of all, he doesn't have to give it to the town. He could give it to a land trust, but he could also give it to the town. But he lists out, and you list out, all those activities that are prohibited, and all those activities that are permitted.
Okay.
And you can be very, you can
basically
just don't- we don't want it to be-
customize
Yeah.
it
Sure.
to the site.
Right. We don't want the contours changed. We don't want structures put up.
Yeah.
If you got a clear dead wood.
If this were a subdivision, you may say, we'll allow you to have pathways through it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm fine
Is
with
this something that he's gonna want? I don't know. But you guys are showing a lot of interest in making sure it stays as natural woodlands.
Yeah.
And what does that entail? Does it mean you can cut firewood? Maybe. But he can talk about that, he can figure that out now, and he doesn't ever have to come back again. You can have that conversation right up front.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of it. Just more government in people's lives. Too much of it. I think we're getting land here. We're getting.
But you're not getting the other vernal pool, you're not creating that little Siberian bridge.
And there's a lot of good things going on here. And it's not this property in particular. It's a conservation restriction in particular. Anywhere that I'm just not a fan of.
So my
Entitled to that opinion.
and
that's
I
okay.
understand that particular viewpoint here. I'm just, because we're inside the 100-foot buffer on the vernal pool, and we're allowing for that, I don't think this is a big ask from my standpoint. And I think we're trying, a lot of questions we've had here is to ensure there's sufficient migratory land for these wildlife. And I think that we know that this property is full of wildlife, not just the vernal pool habitats. I think it's not an unreasonable ask.
Yeah, I would agree.
I would like to point out that in the future, whether it be a year from now or 10 years from now, whoever would be living in that home really can't do an awful lot behind it anyway without coming back to this commission, even without the conservation restrictions, simply because this little sliver is the only area that's not encumbered by a conservation buffer zone. So if they want to do anything, basically, other than in that one little narrow strip back there, they're gonna be back here anyway, because they're under your jurisdiction.
I know, but it's gotta be 20,000 square feet, I mean, it's
But
not, it's not.
I was
it's
gonna
not-
say, but to what Andrea said earlier, is it, again, for, I guess, that, like, and this is, thank you very much, this is great. So other than this little strip, like to Andrea's point, all the paperwork and a meeting and setting up conditions and this and that, you can do this and you can't do all that, and I think Frank just made a good point, it ain't worth spending,
But
they gotta come back anyhow.
Well,
No, it is.
That's the
It is
paperwork you're
worth
trying
it.
to avoid.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's the
That's what
paperwork.
we're trying to
Because-
prevent further bureaucratic requirements.
Because they could go in there and put in a pool, they could put in a tennis court, they could do a lot of things in there that would be disruptive to the wildlife in that area.
But they'd have to apply.
No, if they stay in that sliver,
Right.
they wouldn't have to.
There's not an awful lot that can be done.
I was gonna say, and that's.
Right, but I just gave you two.
Well,
If, you know what, if they wanted to fence the sliver in and make it a big play area, fine by me. I mean,
Right, and I wouldn't approve.
I wouldn't approve that.
I wouldn't want to.
And he's not asking.
Right.
No.
Right. You know, I think if we're amenable to, you know, having that be the limit of work for the yard, putting that conservation restriction basically just puts an added layer of protection for the wetlands and the resource areas back there on an area that was planned on not being touched anyways. So I don't think it's that big of an ask. Okay. Any public comment on 348 Foundry Street? Seeing none, we'll continue. Very good. Thank you guys for your time and information. That was very helpful for this
Yeah,
one.
thank you. Appreciate
Um,
the feedback, and I appreciate you listening to the first set of comments from Andrea. It was very helpful to have this meeting 2 weeks later than we originally planned.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Get to a much closer point, so
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Motion to continue 348 Foundry Street.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Gentlemen,
Thank you.
good. Have a good evening.
Where is that?
All right.
You're up again, Frank.
Later on,
Oh man, you're here all night, huh?
There you go. Wow.
at 24 Cornerstone, that you did the.
You mentioned it, yes.
Yeah, okay.
24 Cornerstone Drive.
Just like that.
And I appreciate the Conservation Commission scheduling these two back to back.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. Nothing.
Frank, do you want me to stick around for this one or not?
If you feel like it. And if Andrea doesn't quite, does Andrea
I
have any
did
questions?
question your line.
Okay.
Okay.
Good night.
Thanks, Mark.
Good night.
Good to see you.
Have a good night. Thanks.
All right, come on now.
Okay.
Waiver request, fee count, D. Oh God, which one is the? I like
The one Leo,
Yeah, I did.
yeah. His sketch plan on the next one is not as fabulous, but we'll put it up anyways. Thank you very much.
I don't know, I think Captain Bob would be proud of this one.
All right, tell us about your project.
Okay,
Is that it?
The Lewolds have lived for quite some time at 24 Cornerstone Drive. They currently have an above-ground swimming pool in their backyard. They wish to upgrade the above-ground swimming pool to a conventional in-ground pool with deck. All work is proposed within the existing backyard area. They're not proposing any additional clearing. Wetlands have been delineated by LAC Environmental. They're across the back end of the property. The back portion of the property is wooded. There's some trees that have blown down in there from some storms over the winter, and you can see that there's been some brush that has been cut and discarded in that area, but it's certainly not a cleared area. I think the only work whatsoever back in that area that would be proposed to be done is repair of the existing fence. A tree has blown down in a place or two and bent up the chain link fence, so they'll be obviously repairing that if they're improving their swimming pool.
Is that on the map at all?
Yeah, it's between the red line and the little, green
Yeah.
Yes,
tree.
over here.
Oh, okay. Oh, chain link fence, I
Yeah.
see, okay.
Again, that is an existing fence. The only thing
Right.
done to that's just to repair where trees messed it up. So,
Oh, and you're talking about like top bars and.
exactly,
Yeah,
yeah. Some of the wires messed up, may have to be
Oh, yeah.
replaced,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sort of thing.
Gotcha.
But certainly not planning on new fencing or anything
Yeah.
in that area, just repairs.
Okay, yeah, keep going.
To offer some mitigation, now, there's very little work within the buffer zone, but we are going a little bit into the 100-foot buffer. So we have proposed some enhancement plantings along the back edge of the pool. We've also proposed a 3-foot wide planting strip that's gonna have some organic mulch, and it's gonna be graded so that it would intercept any of the stormwater runoff from the pool deck. That would intercept that, prevent it from flowing into the wetlands. We have shown on the plan a location for a dewatering pit. I do not believe that's gonna be necessary. If you can see from the contour lines, we have elevation 103 going right through where the pool is, and you'll see down the edge of the wetlands, down at elevation 94. So it's a significant drop down. I don't think they're gonna encounter groundwater with the construction, but we do have a dewatering pit if necessary. We did have designated a material storage area. The pool filter location, they propose to put that in the same location that they currently have a garden area. They got some timbers in there for a semi-raised bed garden. They're gonna be putting the new pool filter in that area. But again, I would point out that 100% of the work is proposed within the existing cleared lawn area with no additional clearing necessary. I have not seen a report on it as of yet.
You haven't?
No.
Oh, my mistake. I got it done.
What's that?
I got it done.
You did. I did meet with your agent out
Hot
there
off the
late
presses.
this afternoon.
It was late this afternoon.
Any comment on the fact that the current pool was not,
We don't know whether it is, but we couldn't find any record.
yeah, I guess we couldn't find any record that it was approved by the commission?
I have no knowledge of it. The pool has obviously, and I believe that your agent can verify this, has obviously been there for quite a few years.
Not 86 though.
Oh, what's that?
The ACEC requires that it be
Oh,
pre-disturbed
definitely.
86.
Yeah,
So
definitely was
doesn't-
not part of that. This
Yeah.
house wasn't even there then.
Right.
This house came in after that.
Right.
So,
I can and you can also see from the plan that the existing pool is tucked up adjacent to the dwelling, and he's got a tree line. So they've also minimized the amount of lawn area they have back there as well.
Right.
They just must have a big dog because they put a lot of chain link. They gave him a lot of
Considering
area
what I saw
to
on the
play.
lawn, I'd say he's pretty big.
What's the current stone patio there, out in the middle of nowhere?
It's
out
there's
back, it's just basically just some
flagstones.
Yeah, are you familiar with the site?
I went there yesterday or Saturday.
Okay, yeah,
Saturday.
it's just some flagstones set in the ground,
Mhm.
grass
I think there's a
and moss
fire-
growing between the stones.
Oh, okay.
They're just one of those raised.
Yeah.
portable-
Kinda like that look.
Yeah.
So one question that came up in another pool area was whether, because it's impervious in an ACEC, an impervious structure, another pool area suggested doing pervious pavers around their patio in the apron to reduce the pervious, and you would actually then you might actually be less than existing, but existing doesn't really matter because it was never authorized, but.
It is just a very the corner of it, only maybe 25% of the pool and deck is actually even within the 100-foot buffer zone. And we have proposed a entire strip behind it with a mulched area that's graded to intercept the water. I feel that will more than handle that little bit of water that would come from that portion of the deck. Pervious pavers for a pool deck, can be quite expensive to do it properly.
I guess, you know, we are in a buffer zone and an ACEC. So we do have to consider the alternatives there.
The good news is it's not wildlife habitat area.
Right. Can you talk a little bit more about the mulch bed and all of that? Is it going to be, you know, just a strip of mulch on top of ground, or are we going to have anything that will better
we
do
did
the
give a
make sure it's
detail
charging?
on it. We were digging down almost 2 feet, putting 12 inches of loom underneath it,
That's what
with
it
10
is.
inches of mulch above that.
Okay. The mini tree threw me off when I was looking at that.
In fact, that is the exact same detail that we used on a similar pool that came before this commission maybe a year ago, down off of Beaver Dam Road. I forgot the name of the road off that goes off North Beaver Dam Road, Georgetown Estates.
Yep, right before Winterberry Lane, yep.
Yeah, the exact same series of plantings and mulch bed that we utilized on that project.
Oh, I did a certificate of compliance on that. I thought it was.
You thought it looked familiar?
Yeah, it was like amazing that it was, the planting was the same.
Yeah.
Michael, do you have any additional comments on this one?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
No.
Okay. And the recommendations, permanent markers, 50 feet from the BVW, sustainable pool and lawn practices.
I mean, there is one question here, is it, where are they gonna be discharging the backwash off of this pool? Because I mean, the filter's in the buffer zone.
Yeah, a lot of the newer pool filtration systems really don't have a significant backwash discharge.
Okay, so is there a way for us to ensure that that's the filtration system that they?
That could be conditioned.
We don't have the specs on it, though. We don't know what would be. We could be conditioning a black box that doesn't necessarily exist.
But in a generic thing of the sustainable swimming pool, maybe he can give me some language on that. Minimize, use a filter that minimizes backwash discharge.
Okay. So Andrea, you would.
Reduces? No longer uses?
Backwash volume. All right, so Andrew, you had talked about relocating the fence 50 feet from the BVW.
Yeah, it comes right up adjacent to the wetland line on its northern corner.
Does it cause more disturbance than just leaving it as is?
Yeah,
No, I was thinking of more of it in the future. If he were ever to take it down.
Okay, if it were to be replaced, but at the time being, I certainly would not recommend moving it. It is still a wooded area there now to go in there and try to work in there, digging, moving the fence posts. I don't think
Even with
would
a
be.
rubber mini, yeah.
Okay.
Rubber.
All right, and there was
You
some.
weren't there for Bill Humphrey saying it only takes 2 strong men.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
We know one of them ain't him, so.
Maybe that's how we throw it his shoulder.
That
dozen
it
times.
really, yeah.
And you saw some yard waste inside the 50-foot.
It's kind of a general.
Yeah, that's what I say. Yeah,
It's a general storage ground. He doesn't.
Some of it's been cleaned up, and others of it is not.
Yeah, it's cuttings. It's I think a lot of it, and I'm guessing, is debris from some of the trees. As you saw, some of the trees have been blown down over the winter. I think someone's come in there with a chainsaw and de-limbed them and piled up. It didn't just drop. They've kind of piled some of the branches in there, and there's certainly critters habitat within the area.
And
But I guess
there's
with
a
the
compost bin out there too.
Yes.
So.
So maybe
And-
maybe they could relocate that
everything was-
outside the buffer.
Yeah, and everything
closer
was,
to the
was
house.
absolutely outside the wetland. He knew where his wetland line was.
Okay, well that's good. All right, so dispose of yard waste and move compost.
Inside the chain link fence?
Oh, is some of it outside the chain link
It's
fence?
all outside.
Oh, through that gate.
All outside the
Yeah.
chain link fence.
Or is that a nice little wildlife fort, and we can just have them not
Not
dispose
add to it.
any further
Yeah,
yard waste?
I would be okay with that.
Okay, all right.
But move the composting bin.
Yeah, all right. So we're gonna dispose of future yard waste. What? At least outside the 50-foot, or do we want to have them put it? I mean, they have some wooded area. It looks like.
It's really, it's there's trees, but it's like there's nothing growing on the ground.
Mhm.
It's not like.
Oh, back here.
Yeah, it's like bare land. It's not really lawn, you know. It's so.
Okay. All right. So we'll just say future yard waste outside. I mean, at least outside the 50-foot is better than where it's going now.
And the good news is that, because he has such limited amount of grass in the back, I didn't see the deep piles
Mhm.
of lawn clippings,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
the commission would probably ask that to be moved.
Okay. All right. I think I'm good. You?
I'm good.
Good. All right. Any public comment on 24 Cornerstone Drive? Seeing none. Would you like to close?
I would like to close unless the commission requires additional information from me.
Contingent upon a more detailed waiver letter? Or are we comfortable with the waiver letter as is?
Do you want him to identify the sustainable, lawn and swimming pool stuff before? Or, I was gonna list them out.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm just thinking again, we have a waiver inside an ACEC. I figure we should at least have the
There is a waiver.
requirements.
Oh, he does have it. He
Okay.
does have a waiver.
Does it
letter.
note? Yeah, no, but does it note all the specifics?
There's nothing about public interest.
Okay, and what about
Well, I think
alternatives?
the public interest, I believe I did mention on that, and again, I reiterated some of the public benefit of the selection of the plantings that we've got. It's a food
I
source
remember
for,
reading that.
for
That's the brief to
wildlife
support the waiver?
And, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that was just I thought that was mitigation, silly me.
That was some of the public interest. It's a food source for songbirds and insects and butterflies.
Yeah, I remember reading this earlier now. I just.
Mhm.
So many.
Some of the plants are pollinators that are favored by bees.
Okay, I guess, so the
It's a 5-foot strip.
alternatives, are we happy with how the alternative discussions laid out in the brief? I mean, it's basically just
kind
over
of-
existing. So.
Yeah, and
Not gonna get it much closer to the house.
Deck in this location. Yeah, okay, that's good. All right.
Least amount of
I think I'm good. Yeah, I just didn't remember if it specifically
Oh, yeah,
mentioned
no,
alternatives, but I think
yeah.
noting that it's going on the same location. I mean, that's about as
Yeah.
minimal as you can get. All right, very good. So motion to issue a permit to work in order of conditions and grant a waiver for 24 Cornerstone Drive with the requirements noted in the staff report dated April 1st, 2019. With the additional requirements that as part of the sustainable pool and lawn practices that they will use a filter that minimizes backwash volume and they will dispose of future yard waste outside of the 50-foot no-touch buffer.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
82 Highland Street.
I thought I saw Peter out there. There he is.
septic upgrades.
Peter, welcome back.
What's up?
Usually you're here, you get the early spot, I apologize. Now you know how
I guess that frequent flare
fields.
card isn't good for anything, huh? Well, I guess you're not at the bottom.
Wow. The chair sets the agenda, so I don't know. It's on him, it's not on me and her. We don't have anything to do with that, Andrea doesn't, it's all stuff on, so.
Ooh.
Beep, beep. Just throwing that out for a point of information. People who have the
Ran you
facts.
right over.
Yeah.
Were you handing me the? You were, weren't you?
So,
Thank you.
so we have a waiver letter, but the waiver's not required on this one because this qualifies for simplified septic.
Yeah,
Okay. Great.
and I probably, no.
All right, please introduce yourself for the recording and tell us about your project.
Alrighty. For the record, Peter Lyons with Collins Engineering Group. I'm here tonight representing Mr. Hall, the property owner. This is for a septic system repair on an existing 3-bedroom house. Wetlands across the back and a stream. We've showed the 100-foot inner and 200-foot outer riparian zones. Kind of tough one here. We did a test pit up front, unsuitable materials. We have water lines, gas lines, utilities, pretty much everywhere else up front.
That answers that question.
Yeah, we got this little area in the back of the house that we did find some favorable material in. We are able to barely maintain the 50-foot to the BVW line. By doing so, we are, looking for a couple Board of Health variances, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
For the project, we have proposed an 8-inch straw wattle around the entire thing, basically wrapping around to the street on both sides. We show a soil stockpile area, proposed dewatering location, as well as a detail for that. We show a series of conservation posts, 5 in total, at the edge of the existing BVW line, which, with the exception of back here, follows the existing edge of lawn. It looks like we will be removing 1 tree at about the 50-foot line to accommodate the leaching area. The rest is existing lawn, to be turned back into lawn again. Decommissioning of the existing pit out in the back, pump and filled, erosion controls going around that. That's about it. Any questions, concerns? Oh, and we propose some blueberry bushes along the edge of the yard.
So, Peter, can you talk a little bit about the condition out there right now? Because when I was out there on Saturday, there was standing water to the to the east of the cesspool, and it was actually
Toward the shed?
no, the other way.
Okay.
Sorry, lost my north.
No, you were right, I was the one who was wrong.
And it was bubbling.
I think I might be able to answer, because I was just there before I came here.
Yeah.
There's a sump pump in the basement,
I
and
see.
there's a pipe, you could see it when the snow, it ran all the way out to the back. And
I see.
I think when the tractor ran to do the test pit, I think they ran over the pipe and crushed it. And that's where the water was bubbling up, because it's right where the tracks went over for the machine.
Yeah. That whole, I have not been in a backyard that isn't wetlands that is so squishy as that backyard is right now. I mean, like, I was not, I didn't even put my boots on, I regretted it.
Sure.
And so, I mean, it's wet out there.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the lawns in the area are like that. If we had an option, like I said, we tried
Well,
digging out.
yeah, I didn't notice that test pit up front was unsuitable, because
Yeah.
I was wondering why we didn't go out front.
I wasn't personally on site for the perk test. I can just imagine, you know, they hit. Typically, what happens is you might get deep enough in the soil, but if you get a loam or something silty, the footprint of the system just becomes too large to feasibly fit in the area. So we were able to find some loamy sand, you know, nice stuff, which keeps it really as small of a footprint as we can work with. So yeah, the yard's spongy, but.
So what about this discharge of this sump pump at this point? We're dumping it into the wetlands.
Could you incorporate that into like the septic?
Yeah, I mean, as far
If
as
that's what it
repairing
is.
it would be done at the time of the septic.
Yeah.
You know, and then dump out somewhere by the cesspool
It actually
to the
goes
side.
all the way up by the tank that's in the far back corner
Yep.
there. I don't know how it even works, pumping it that far away with it, right? It's just a tiny something.
Yes, so we could, condition something saying to place it, to redirect the sump line. I don't know where you'd like to see it.
Well, I'd just like to
Unfortunately,
remind this board that we allow the pumping of a sump pump directly into the Queesit Brook, because that is allowed, that is considered clean water. So in the past, we allowed that.
If somebody has a better suggestion.
Like previous boards, or we? I don't remember.
This, yeah,
Yeah.
Queesit.
Raise the house.
The architect who hid the ditch from us over at the Queesit House, which has an outfall directly in the river, right in the brook. I should say brook because it's Queesit Brook.
Queesit House,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, Queesit House. Yeah.
and
I
it's
think
considered
might have been
and
just
was
before me.
no,
Oh,
yes,
that was an interesting one.
right, but we were.
Yeah, I think it was.
The former planner, now our planning director, Stephanie Danielson, stated that because some discharge is considered.
It's basically groundwater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And we weren't worried about it directly being 2 feet. It's on the bank of the Queesit.
Right.
So.
Okay.
All right. So I guess you guys can address that.
Yeah, no, that'll be repaired at the time of the septic.
Okay.
It's probably gonna end up, dumping out more or less where it is now.
Alright.
There's not really a better alternative location.
Yeah.
No,
And,
to Rory's point, all those backyards, unfortunately, on Highland Street, and that's just kind of the nature of what it is over there.
Pump and it is what
Yeah.
it is.
Did you see the staff report?
I did.
Are you okay with relocating the bushes to the edge of the lawn? And
It's at the edge of the lawn, but
You
the
want it at
wetland
the edge of
line
the
is
wetlands?
inside the wetland line.
oh, I see. So align them along, maybe like between those two markers or something like that.
Yeah, just spread them out a little more so that so you get up to the wetland line.
Yeah, can we put them so they're not, I don't know, can we put them along like this line, so it's the wetland line where it falls with the tree line, or, kind of extend the existing tree line rather than put them in the middle of the yard?
So if you notice, so he's looking at where the wetland line 4, 5 is really at the tree line, but
Right.
at 6, 7, and 8 is where it really diverges, and so they've been mowing wetland.
Okay.
So it was more to the west, where I was thinking you could just spread them out more so that it is not lawn.
Yeah, we can. Any particular places, or just kind of take the same numbers and?
Well, I guess, do we know how the lawn corresponds to the original wetland line when the house was built?
I did not look. I didn't look. We don't often get wetland lines in lawns, but
Right.
33 Prospect is an unusual case.
Everything's unusual about that case.
But it's here they're talking about their if you put them 6 feet on center, just take up a larger area.
Right.
I'm not
Oh.
opposed to
Yeah.
pretty much any, this is from, I was up with my daughter,
Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
she may never listen to me, but I'll tell her she.
So it wasn't your idea.
I just want to be sensitive about, you know, potentially taking what was originally okay,
Mhm.
you know, disturbed land, and just
Right, my comment with that is, I guess it could go either way. If we're mandating that the conservation posts be
Right.
at the wetland, it's not gonna hurt us, you know, we're trying to keep you out. You know,
Right.
Why not move the bushes?
yeah.
I think that's what, I think that that was the reasoning I was using, is
Yeah.
that they're gonna look like they're standing in the middle of the lawn, and they're gonna wonder why.
Sure.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So we'll have them put 6 feet on center between wetland flags 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Yes.
I don't know if it's gonna match up perfectly, but yeah, you guys can figure out the.
Yep. Yeah,
That's
we'll
general.
figure it out.
That's the general flavor, anyways. Okay. Good.
Yep, good.
Any public comments on 82 Highland Street? Seeing none, would you like to close?
Please.
All right. Motion to issue an order of conditions and permit to work for 82 Highland Street with the conditions noted in the staff report dated March 29th, 2019, with the note that we're going to relocate the blueberry bushes to the edge of the wetland line between wetland flags 6, 7, 8, and 9.
I don't see none.
Or
It
I guess
switches
6,
to
7, 8, and
103. I don't know why, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess it's wetland flag 6, 7, 8, 103, 102.
Correct.
That general contour.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thanks, guys.
I got the next
You got the next one? All right. 48 Oldfield,
Thank
right?
you very much.
Yes. Oh, man, long night tonight.
1 minute break.
1 minute break? Okay.
Getting a 1 minute record, so we can put the blueberry, 'cause she's gonna ask.
Where are we putting the bushes? Just this back corner here, so that's the existing tree line.
That's fine, we can't even add more, she likes the idea of blueberry bushes anyways.
Yeah, believe me, if we hadn't ruled before, I would have loved to have slammed the door on that guy. That was the architect.
So we just-
Oh, really?
That was the, remember the guy with the white haired guy, Jay Thomas, with the library?
No.
Just in this
I
little.
was, I don't think.
Oh, yeah, you're right. He told Stephanie, with me and Stefan were behind her.
I don't know how familiar you are.
I'm not giving one to an engineer or consultant of any kind.
That I'm gonna go in the ground with a little.
And I turned.
mark around them.
And I went just like this, he said, I'll talk to you later, Steph. And I turned and walked away.
But that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Well,
Yeah.
And I went and said, Greg Strange, write this down, because it'll be the last time that I ever do that.
Wow.
Because it was a dual walk.
It was what?
It was a
Dual walk,
boat,
finding
dual
work.
walk.
Yeah,
boat.
yeah.
And planning tried to chisel us into buying the coffee.
oh my God, this evening is going quite long.
Yeah, 2:16, I should have anticipated, people were gonna come in for that, my apologies.
You know, it's,
Yeah, appetite.
it is what it is.
It's all part of the fun.
Yeah. What you just said.
I was just thinking.
Who's having fun?
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna get the first and the last next
We
time.
didn't have dinner yet, waiting in the other room.
Go get dinner and come back.
Oh my goodness.
I did it to myself. I was saying to the last client, I haven't been stuck in a late meeting in a couple of years.
Oh, boy. Why would you ever do such a thing? Jeez.
Well, if you hadn't sent in your revised plan so late,
Yep.
and gotten early.
These things take time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alright. 48.
All right. Take us through it, please.
So, revisiting this one, for the record, Peter Lyons with Collins Engineering, representing the homeowner for a proposed 5-bedroom dwelling at the end of Oldfield Drive. Quick recap. Last time, a couple comments. We had approximately 1,500 feet of intrusion into the outer resource area to the stream. We discussed maybe moving the pool or moving the house locations. Based on our client's desires, she wanted to maintain the overall feel of everything. So we did maintain the pool out back, and we shrunk up the house a little. And I was able to get creative with some retaining in the slopes out in the back and keep everything totally out of the 200 foot as well as the 100 foot to the bordering to the BVW buffer. So again, we eliminated that 1,500 square foot of disturbance. Our erosion control is outside of the 200 and 100 foot buffers as well. Couple other comments from Andrea were regarding the drainage trench on the side of the driveway. Right now we have the flow dropping off towards the south and being collected in a 2x2 stone trench. I just kind of red penned that in, just showing that we can extend it to the wall.
Yeah.
So that'll all collect, and we'd probably end up with a discharge pipe, at the end of the wall or something. But again, that would still be outside of all of our buffer areas.
So does this no longer need a waiver?
Yeah, still inside the buffer zone for the bordering land subject to flooding.
Where's
But
that
he
one?
stayed out of the 50 feet, so you're
So
right, the
this
waiver,
dark
the
line
waiver
is-
was the 50 foot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, he no longer needs waivers.
Yeah.
Reasonable, actually practicable alternative,
Yeah.
stronger than reasonable.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was
So that
tough.
helps.
We had
Yeah.
a design in between these two that significantly shrunk the house, and the client wasn't happy with it, and so this is like design 9 at this point. But we got something that works pretty well for everyone.
Significantly shrunk the house. It's
Except they added on the
56 by
garage.
42.
Yeah, but they added the garage on.
Yeah, this whole footprint was encompassed in our last plan. We showed a building envelope,
Yeah,
which the commission wanted a little more detail on the actual dimensions.
Yeah.
right.
So we're not proposing a fancy house, but it is pretty large.
Yeah, the previous one
Kinda
was
matches.
70 by 48, so this is.
Yeah, it kind of matches the existing feel in the neighborhood. We talked about maybe moving it onto this upland, but we want to maintain what little is there for a buffer right now.
Just
Mhm.
to be clear, my point here, the
Sure.
70 doesn't change very much because he's extended out the garage.
Right.
I mean, the overall footprint doesn't change very much. I understand he's narrowed it by 6 feet, and
Yep, it's a little narrower. We moved it towards
Yep.
this
no,
lot
you
line,
guys have,
and we
believe me,
moved the tank. And,
I'm only just
yep.
pointing it out for the commission more than anything else, that you,
Yeah.
it wasn't a tremendous loss here because it was a drive-under garage anyway, so.
Yep.
So,
Which made a huge difference in the amount of grading needed.
so.
Yeah, we were able, those two things, shrinking the house a little. We're not chasing the slope out as far. So, we were looking at like 12 feet of fill before,
Yeah.
and that has been substantially reduced.
Okay, so I guess to Rory's point, the old square footage of the house with the garage was 3,360 feet. And, quick calculations here on that garage and the house, it's at 3,072. And it's 6 feet closer
Right.
this way. So, yeah.
I think the good thing to me is he has changed the footprint of the house so it fits better this lot.
Right, yeah,
I
agreed.
mean, believe me, I'm very happy with what you presented here
Mhm.
today as opposed to what we saw last time. So I know it wasn't here, but I did my job here, so.
Yeah.
So I do think that, I think the applicant's getting a lot of what she wanted out of this, and I think you're responding to our concerns of especially that slope. That slope is pretty good.
Yeah, and like I said, she already had this kind of layout in her head, and there was no sense in showing her a design with the house here or there because she's gonna say no. So we made this work for everyone.
Which line is the 50-foot bordering subject? That
This
one? Okay.
black one
Oh,
here.
so we are out of
we're well
all.
outside of the 50.
That's
Did you
the,
say that there
that's the bordering, that's the 50-foot, so yes, so no waivers needed.
At all.
Right,
Okay.
right.
That's
He's-
huge. That's a huge improvement. I mean, especially for you guys, you know, as far as, burdens to overcome.
Yeah.
Great.
What else? I don't know. Any other questions, concerns with anything?
You also, when you talked about stabilizing your slopes, you're using native vegetation. It's a lot
Yes.
more, you might wanna point out that.
We've revised, basically, we got a note saying any of the disturbed slope areas, which is, we have an area somewhere, I think it's still around 1,500 square feet, including the space between the walls. We show a couple different species, bushes, a white oak, a couple bigger trees, some blueberries, and then just a general upland, meadow mix on the 3-to-1 slopes. Versus the first proposal was just a bunch of blueberry bushes, so.
Great. Michael, do you have anything on this one to add?
No, I'm looking at Andrea's notes on 13 and.
This was the public, the one, nothing was actually proposed on the public trust. So, under 13, I threw out the possibility that the larger lot, that the other lot that was created in this A&R is lot 20B. It's identified, you have that on the second plan. It was, when he created the A&R lot, it's identified as not a buildable lot. So I questioned what was gonna happen to it and suggested that might be a very good, public interest. I'm looking for your plan here, I'm trying to find what it's called.
I don't know if we have. I
You
didn't
do,
see
you have
this
a,
one
you have a large, you have a large size plan? Do you have
What's
it
the
with
date
you
on it?
today?
I do not.
Okay, I do.
326.
So if you guys are done talking about the close-up, which is very important, then we could take an opportunity to jump to the broader picture
Well, I'd
here.
like to see, no, then the 20, the lot that
This
you're
is
talking
the-
about. Or even right there's fine.
Oh, that, even there doesn't show it. Even this one doesn't show the A&R. Maybe I have it. I can get it on.
I know you had it at the last meeting. I don't know if
Yeah,
that does anything
30
for you.
Okay.
Well, she's looking up information. Rory, did you have anything else you wanted to add to this one?
I would only add that if we're looking at that, a land gift, I guess I'd wanna know, and I know it was just A&R, but I'd like to know, kinda, even though it's unbuildable, like what kind of tax revenue is it gonna generate for the town before we accept it as a gift?
I guess we should probably ask the same thing at 348.
Yeah, what is that tax revenue that we're,
Giving up.
yeah.
No, I guess my question would be regarding gifting the land. My client wasn't very into that idea.
I'm with your client,
Yeah, I mean, she's got a ton of land out there, and she
Well,
doesn't want to just give it away as a
Understood.
I guess with
technicality.
the elimination of the waivers, is public interest even required on this?
There you
right
go,
anymore?
there you
Yeah.
go, that's
Yeah.
fair.
So I think for this, the way it is right now, I think we can kind of just strike that.
Do we wanna, step aside from this for a moment, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Do we wanna ask Andrea to, reach out to Frank and find out what the tax revenue impact of
Yeah, I think that's a relevant question.
3.71 acres?
Is
Yeah.
it gonna change your vote, cause you already voted on it?
348, we didn't vote on it. No, we're continuing.
Oh, okay, okay, Okay.
Before we didn't vote on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd definitely like to.
At the very least, we should be documenting this, yeah.
Back to you, Peter.
Okay.
All right, and you had a chance to review the staff report on this one?
I did, yes.
Okay, all good with moving the markers to follow down in that corner, the 50 foot to the land subject to flooding?
Which would be right here.
Yep, so where it crosses over the blue dash line, you have that marker right there, so the two markers to the bottom.
Okay.
If they could follow the,
Up here.
yeah, I guess over
Something
there,
like
yeah,
this.
something like that.
Okay.
And then, let's see, do you know if the property owner's all right with limiting the lawn to the limit of work?
I think that's the plan, yes.
Okay.
It will be now.
Yeah, it will be now. All right, sustainable pool and lawn practices. I mean, do we want to talk about put in the minimizing backwash discharge volume on this one
And,
too? I mean, we had it
in-
on the other.
And in the past.
I guess actually, well, but that one was in a resource area in an ACEC. Is this ACEC?
ACEC.
It
Okay.
is.
Not only is it ACEC, it's also, the Canoe River Aquifer, ACEC.
All right, so we want to minimize
you've-
backwash.
In other cases, when you talked about, you also did saltwater pool as opposed to chlorine.
Yeah.
We did that at least in one case.
I
Yeah, we
believe it
did.
was the
Cases.
neighbors, 25 Oldfield, was
Yes,
it?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, we should probably be consistent there. So.
And I
And
don't
he's
think
the one who
that's
did
not
per-
too onerous.
And
of
he's the
burden.
one who did pervious
so.
pavers
Okay.
on his apron, in order to be outside of, have no structure in the 100-foot.
Oh, yeah, that's right. But this one, we're outside of it, so that's not
Yeah.
Right,
necessary.
right.
Wouldn't hurt, but, yeah, I think we'll say, saltwater pool. Do we want to check with the owner before we go ahead and
I
fully
would
approve
say
that?
definitely. From what I know.
Okay, and also, it doesn't sound like they're like itching to break ground on this thing right away anyways.
No.
So a couple weeks
I
won't kill
don't think
us.
she wants a saltwater pool, but I can ask her.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna request it because it's the ACEC and the Canoe River Aquifer, and we requested the same down the street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not a pool guy.
Yeah.
I've heard that the maintenance is can be more, or I don't.
My parents had a saltwater
I
pool.
guess
It's
it
fine.
depends. Sometimes the clients are looking for it, so that.
My
that's-
cousin
I don't
switched
know.
and
I
she
don't
said
know
it's
of a
less,
single
so-
pool
Exactly.
that has easy maintenance. Pools suck
Yeah.
as far as maintenance goes. So,
It's a 5-bedroom house with a pool.
Right.
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not too worried about that. So yeah, it's gonna be a saltwater pool.
All right.
But if you'd like, we'll continue to the next meeting just to confirm that detail.
Can that just be something in the order, or I mean,
Yeah.
if it is what it is, then
Then it is what it
doesn't
is.
seem
Yeah.
worth continuing.
Perfect. That's fine with me.
and minimize backwash filter, which doesn't even matter.
Yeah, we'll yeah. Okay.
And sustainable lawn practices is kind of a standard set of things that we've used in different decisions. I used it as a term, sustainable lawn practices. I was planning on writing it out.
Yeah. Wasn't
You
there a
know, it's-
manual somewhere?
We
we've seen?
created a 59, at a particular site in town, you had one set up.
Right, and we've referenced it.
Referenced it in others, and then when a landscaper came in to build a house, we had him double check it.
Oh yeah.
Bay Road.
Cornerstone, over on
Yeah,
Cornerstone.
that's right.
too.
What's
And
his name?
so yes, that guy.
Yeah.
And so, it's a pretty standard set.
Great.
Not going over lawn.
That's fine.
Don't use chemical fertilizers.
Anything we're missing?
Apparently not, because since I missed that you didn't need a waiver anymore.
All right. Good.
I'm good.
Good.
Yep.
All right. Any public comments on 48 Oldfield Drive? Seeing none. Would you like to close?
Please.
All right.
No one left awake.
Yeah, I know, right? All right, so motion to issue a permit to work in order of conditions for 48 Oldfield Drive, with the conditions noted in item 13 of the staff report, as amended, instead of just sustainable pool and lawn practices, we're also gonna require the use of a saltwater pool that uses a filter to minimize backwash discharge volume. Wait, do we need that in there if it's saltwater? I don't know, I'm not leaving in. Importantly noting that we're moving a couple of the markers that are, so that they're outside the 50-foot buffer zone to the land subject to flooding. We're gonna limit the size of the lawn to the limit of work as noted on the plan. The rest of the property will remain in its natural state. I think that's it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nice work on that.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too, man.
I think it's done.
37 Lincoln Street.
37 Lincoln.
Whoa.
Hey, how are you guys?
Thanks for your patience. Long one tonight.
No worries. Brian Goldrick.
Hi, Brian. All right, so
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
bring us up to date.
Oh, I lost my, go ahead, you bring up to date, I lost my picture.
I was like, did I say something
And
wrong?
her assistant came by today, and I believe we pretty much came up with an area that I can clear without, anywhere.
Okay.
Um,
Andrea, wanna?
Pretty much what Andrea says.
Andrea's the boss.
That's the way we go.
Yeah, I know, right?
It turns out that couple interesting things we found out more today than any other day. The wetland line was taken off of the assessor's map, so today we were checking the stakes, and they were like 103 off of a one, 96 off the other. He was pretty much on target, but we ended up we went to the top of the slope and then went back like 20 feet so that he would stay off of the slope, and so his clearing area goes on a diagonal, and it's I have to actually create a sketch plan from our notes today. Instead of being 50 feet of clearing, because that goes right into the ditch area on the side, it would start out at 80. It start out at the edge of the gully and then go 88 feet and then 86 feet back from the line. And I will basically take his clear path and create a sketch plan off of the measurements we took yesterday. So it's not a full 50 feet, but looks like a doable area. And there's a dead tree. There's a tree that fell down into the back area. He asked to have that removed. It goes into the 50-foot area. I thought that if you were willing to have him go into the 50-foot area to get rid of the dead tree, you might want him to put some plantings in its place if it's just to restabilize it. But other than
That's that medium-sized pine tree we're talking about. It's about a 12-inch diameter pine tree, I think. Am I remembering it right?
No, it's an 80-footer that fell over.
No, the diameter.
Oh, yeah.
Is it just?
It's just the one tree.
It is one tree. It's really big though.
Yeah, I'd say it's 80 feet.
Yeah, and the
Top 10.
okay. So yeah, there's another tree that's down inside the gully, but that should actually stay in the gully because it's actually working to help slow the water down.
Yeah.
So
There's a
just
whole
leave it.
at the last meeting there was a whole conversation about the gully that's created. Well, it turns out, which is probably unfortunate for a lot of people, is that the gully is actually not in the drainage easement.
Yeah, it's not on my property.
Not even on his property.
Oh, really?
If that iron pipe that is identified there on the front, is actually that's probably the
top bank.
That's the top. That's the bank of the west side, and the gully's off to the other side of it.
I guess that's better for you.
And then, which is better for it. But then the iron pipe down below, where's that one?
Near the street?
No, the one down below. Did we ever? I don't think we ever saw the one behind the house.
The one behind.
Oh, the one back up in the corner over there?
Yeah, this one. So we were looking at the one by the street today,
Yeah, that's
that
this
one.
yeah.
And then there's another one, go down
Right
the
here?
line, yeah.
Yeah, that's right where the stake is.
Oh, it is right where
Yeah,
the stake is.
yeah.
So at that point, the gully is at, that's now, so this one, on the front one by Lincoln Street, the gully is off to the right of it, and then the one behind the house, that iron pipe, the gully is to the left of it. It's all over the place. Big mess.
Okay. So basically, you guys are working out. You gotta sketch it out the details and.
I'm only going to sketch out the clearing. You spoke to the town engineer went out there
Mhm.
and said, yes, this is really eroding the yard, all this road runoff, and yes, if there is drainage easement, then we should use it.
Mhm.
He didn't realize that that the gully wasn't in the drainage easement, but he didn't offer it. He said he would improve it just on his time.
Mm. Right.
When I get to it.
Right. So you're on the calendar, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't know
That's
when your
really
kids are
not
going to college.
Right.
So, So that is, whether or not to include that as part of this project was something that came up. It's, but now you wanna move on the
Yeah.
landscaping without it.
Do we? Or are we at a point to issue a decision tonight? Do we need your sketch and?
I mean, if
I
you,
think she's described it well.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And I know where it is, too.
Yeah.
yeah, he's been out in the
Okay.
field. He's got
There's
little
so much
spots.
room to the back left.
Yeah.
And you get rid of the tree, which is what you really want to do.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we can issue an order of conditions and permit to work contingent on you guys finalize the details on a sketch and removing the tree.
Oh, great. You know what? How about if
something
we,
like that.
how about if we close the hearing and I bring the draft decision to the next meeting? Can you wait 2 weeks for the draft decision? Okay.
It's fine.
I'll bring it to the next meeting and then we'll issue it shortly thereafter.
Any public comment on 37 Lincoln Street? None. So we'll
Yes.
continue to the next meeting.
No, we're gonna close the
Oh,
hearing.
okay. And you'll bring the
Decision
stuff
for
to finalize that.
deliberation.
Okay. All right. Motion to close. Oh, and next. Oh, okay, gotcha. And then next meeting we'll issue the order of
21
conditions and
days.
permit to work. Gotcha. All right. So motion to close 37 Lincoln Street.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. Sorry, rain is starting to shut
I
down.
can understand. Good.
Done.
Thank you.
Andrew, thanks for all your help. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Oh, you're
See
welcome.
you guys.
Thank
Have
you.
a
Have a
great
good night.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. 33 Prospect Street.
The zoo hates
You used to be awake.
I know. Wake up. Sorry, guys.
As they used to say in the grade school 45 years ago. That's actually 50 years ago. They'd be like, as a present.
What? Huh?
Exactly.
All right. So what's going on at 33?
So, last time we were here, it came up that we needed to address natural heritage because the work that was done actually extended into the north side, that is the town land.
Mm-hmm.
And that northerly boundary of this, or that northerly line of this property, which is what I will call the southerly line of the town property, is actually the habitat line.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a file with natural heritage, and then on the 28th, so we didn't really want to finalize the plans because we were not sure what they were gonna come up with.
Right. That
And
makes
so,
sense. I remember.
and so they were issued a letter on the 28th, indicating that the project will not result in a prohibited take of still listed rare species. And so we modified the plan, and I believe that's what's shown up here. First and foremost, I think the commission has been very good at handling this, and been actually not too quick to issue fines more than what we would have anticipated. So I appreciate that the commission has been more of trying to bring the project into compliance more rather than being punitive. And Ms. Langhouse has been very cooperative, so I want to just publicly extend my appreciation and convey my appreciation. But what we have, so what I went the last time we were here, we went back and updated the survey because it was like, okay, why don't we just figure out exactly all the resources which has been done, and then there was an issue on the northeast corner of the property right by wetlands flag TEC BA10. We found that there's an existing catch basin that is actually runs in front of the house down and exits at the bank flag that says B2, which will be down by the southerly end by Prospect Street of Blackbrook.
Yes.
Then I also shot across the street to look at the existing manhole you'll see on the south side of the street.
Yep.
A 12-inch line that drains out of that manhole. And then there's a catch basin to the east of that feeds that manhole. And then we opened that up and checked it. There is nothing coming across the street into that catch basin. But definitely that pipe, it's a plastic pipe that a corrugated plastic pipe that goes under and comes out. It's pretty clogged up. So I think one of the things that we were discussing at the last meeting was the responsibility of cleaning it. I identified the fact that Mr. Vicente, now his predecessor, was not really responsible for that. It clearly was put in there to drain this property here well before the town acquired it. But
So there's two catch basins? There's a pipe going next to the catch basin?
no, it goes from the catch basin.
It goes to the catch basin through the front yard to B2?
Yes, to B2.
And
It
then
goes
what-
parallel
and then-
with the roadway.
Okay, so there's a catch basin across, but then, what did you talking about?
So
Is there-
if you look at
There's one right here.
there's one up here. The one
So much she
that
knows about.
Yeah, and then is there
and
another
then there's
pipe?
one over
Oh,
here.
yeah, sorry.
No,
Oh.
just trying to
Oh.
make sure
Those are on the
if they were connected or by any means.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's, okay.
Yeah. So and then we determined that they were not connected.
They were not connected,
Right.
okay.
So I located, if you look at a bunch of trees, because when Ms. Langhouse and I met on the site, I suggested an area that can actually define the usable yard, if you will. And it's so deceiving when you go out there, you step out of your yard, boom, you're on town property. They didn't know that. He didn't know that. It was an area that's, obviously the previous owner was always mowing and maintaining that their yard. So we marked out, we set all the property corners, so there's no question as to where the boundaries are.
Excellent.
Yeah, if you look at every corner, you see that big old, that looks like a polka dot, the black, yeah, those are all our markers that are.
Oh, you guys went and put them in?
Yeah, and some of them we found was already done before, some of them we put in. And then we put a couple of beam posts along this line here to clearly define the boundary. And so with that, as the commission had ordered in the enforcement order, the extra portion of the addition has been raised, and it's no longer there. It has been cut out. So what we were hoping is that I've listed all the work that's supposed to be taking place, both in written form and my March 29th correspondence to the commission, as well as some notes that I have put on the top right corner of page 2 of 2. And then if you look on the plan, I've defined in a nice solid yellow line with our markers. We've actually purchased the markers from a local surveyor, Jacobs Driscoll.
Yes.
So what we're looking at is.
Our reseller.
Yeah, huh?
Our reseller.
Yeah. Yes. So I've specified the cedar post. Some towns prefer concrete bounds, but I think the cedar post blends in with the yard. And then we'll stamp the post with the seal of the commission. And I think if the commission were to, and we're praying the commission to allow this work so that the yard can be wrapped up. So that would define a permanent area that if the commission approves this, we can then do an as-built plan that can be recorded as opposed to just an as-built plan that we put on file so that there's no question. And then I can actually write a what we call a meets and bounds description of putting some bearings on that so it's recorded. And the commission can put a restriction on when we do the as-built, on the areas outside of that solid yellow line that basically it's defining the area that's being used. Now the patio that's been put in there, that area was originally defined with a fence. And they took down that fence and started building the patio on the wall.
Yeah, started building Fort Knox.
So, I did speak with the building department. They don't really consider that as part of the building structure and left it as purely up to the commission as a site use. So I really would pray the commission if we can do that, but before any further work is done, we can go there and establish that line, and so that it's clear before the work is done, and then the planting, and clearly that needs to be the planting needs to be supervised by Mr. Tunison, who put the plan together, who knows what he's doing. Now there's been some suggestion that some of that vegetation, if left alone, re-emergent, could come back. And Ms. Lancaster has suggested that before we do that, then we have to check and verify that that is actually indeed happening before we can say that. But clearly, there's a plan to revegetate the area. And that is also the plan that the Natural Heritage determined that will not result in a take. Because most of that planting can be accomplished by hand. It's not something that you're gonna need a machine to go in and start digging up the area. And then the area that was where the extra addition was built has been taken down because it's a ordinary ground. I would hope that we can actually use that to infiltrate some water with the crushed stone and what I call the previous pavers. You know, you don't mortar them in, you don't seal them up, just lay them there. You know, rather than if you leave that area for lawn, you basically step out of your house into, you know, so that's.
Yeah, you're talking about just putting the pervious pavers on top of crushed stone?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, you know.
That's fine.
And then just so there's no question as to the extent of the work, I even included in my narrative there's some light fixtures that we want to wire, but Ms. Lancaster has suggested until the commission makes a decision, don't even fix your fixture. Whether it's, and that has not been done. But it's right on the entrance driveway, you see a couple of the existing stone walls. It's basically a combination of stone and granite stones, and they were mortared in with other fieldstone. So the two lamps are sitting on top of them. So likes to fix that so that when his wife or daughter comes home at night, that can be lit up. And then,
All right, so this notice of intent is including the patio and the pool?
yes, sir.
I don't think I can do the patio and the pool.
The pool was already out there.
Was it pre-existing?
Yeah, the pool was always there.
How much of the patio was there before?
So the patio, the fence came right across this way. The fence went this way and came right across here. This here is added.
So the fence, inside the fence, it was impervious patio previously?
a combination of stones.
That was there when we went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
It was
very
always-
first
it was
time
always there.
when
Yeah.
we all went as a group.
Yeah, it's the.
Because
it's-
remember, there
it's
was a
the-
large, like, doghouse kind of type thing at this back, the back corner by
Yeah,
you. so
yeah,
it was
I just
like-
want to clarify for,
So, but I guess, when did that go in?
When you caught them.
What's that?
Oh, I mean, this year? By the previous owner.
The pool?
Yeah.
Just asking what time frame.
He's been there now for about 10 years.
No, 15.
15, okay.
And the pool was there, but
Yeah.
the pool with all the fence around. I go, the patio is where's the excess, the fence was. I take the fence and then I put the.
yeah, but inside the fence, it was all,
a
was it all
paving-
concrete or?
It was a concrete, all concrete.
Mhm.
It was all concrete. I took the concrete and then I put the paving.
So you replaced the concrete that was there with other material? What material is there now?
Now is a paving there, maybe about maybe 3 or 4 feet, maybe 3-4 feet paving.
Yeah, that was what I observed when me, you, and
Right,
Commissioner
the
Humphrey went out
stones,
there.
yeah.
The stones and then the,
He just wanted to make.
Pavers?
pavers,
Pavers, yeah. He just wanted-
Rustic, larger, oversized pavers, I guess you
Yeah,
call
he
them.
just wanted to make that look better than a concrete slab.
Well, again, I remember before I did, the concrete was crappy and beat up.
Oh, yes.
The section that's new, as in they're working on it, is the section that is bumped out.
Yes.
And then the retaining wall, was that placed on top of the existing concrete or was that?
It could have been.
It was, no, it was.
It was?
Yeah, because it's really not a structural wall. It's more of, it's, so, coming from Nigeria, the way people appreciate their yard is kind of a little bit different. Now over here, I want more openness. Over there, people are building fort, This is my domain kind of thing. So it's a non-real retaining wall per se. It's more of a decorative to say, okay, I can sit up on top, and I think that's what's driving it. So I think, quite frankly, if they were aware of what they needed to do over there, and I think it would have been a lot easily presented. And I think it's just the way, and I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, but
It's the way
they came in
was-
front of us for the addition. They
For-
should have known that all that other work.
Well, you know what happens? You get away, now he's using people that understand what regulations are. You know what I'm saying? He's using people that now understand, and obviously, recognizing what's done here.
But I think the only reason, and I'm not, believe me, I'm not trying to defend the homeowner here because we've had our issues, but I think that they were directed by building to come to us on probably when they went to do the addition.
Yeah, right.
Whereas with the fencing or the wall around the pool, they probably didn't need a permit, as Lou has said, and therefore they figured, okay, I don't need a permit for it, I don't need to do anything. I'm not.
No, I can see the line.
I think
I
there's a
can-
difference
Yeah.
between the two.
Oh, I can definitely follow. There's a fence there now, I'm gonna take it down and put up a wall, so what's the difference if it's on the, I could totally
Yeah.
follow that, and that
Yeah.
makes sense.
So.
I'm sorry, but that's exactly the construction told me. You don't need the patio, you don't need the permit. I thought they know.
We're listening to the wrong people.
Yeah. This
Well,
is what-
who's
if
looking
you
for
go
more
out
work?
high money,
Right.
who's looking
Oh,
for
yeah,
more work?
no, that, it's understandable.
You know what happens too is, unless you are in the industry, it's amazing, truly, how ignorant people can be with, okay, well, the building is different. People don't dissociate building department from other, so
I get it.
I can see that. Even with my years, of course, I cannot excuse myself because, if I was doing it. But so I'm really hoping and praying the commission to, work with us, and I guarantee you, I will supervise, not the planting, be there, and he hasn't been that cheap for him either.
Sure.
but it's one of those self-inflicted wounds. But
I mean, do we want to take the opportunity to improve runoff from the patio area by having them put, you know, a curtain of crushed stone around it?
How,
make a lot around here.
so how far is it from the bump out to the yellow?
From here to here,
Yeah,
about 10 feet.
10 feet.
Yeah.
And what were you gonna have in there now?
Oh no, we're just gonna leave that over vegetated.
Right, the yellow line's gonna be.
Because that's
Yeah,
that,
yellow
that's
line
that
would be
half.
the limit for all the work.
So would we really want anything in there? That's sort of that half moss with the silt socks already,
Yeah,
you know, grown.
yeah, the slow socks right here.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
basically.
would it do anything?
Usually they do usually they direct the runoff of these impervious.
Well, see, this was not being watered in, so you're not gonna have like you know how you do like a tile and do grounding.
Mhm.
That's not gonna be the case. This is gonna be left loose, so you're not gonna get
As much runoff.
right.
Mhm.
Right.
More pervious.
Right.
More per, okay.
Okay.
So
What are your thoughts?
the barbecue area stays?
What, the
We haven't
new
gotten there
addition?
yet.
We haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
I like.
Didn't mean to jump over.
No.
I like the. I like the whole new plan. I wish they had hired Mr. Azu way back, but can't roll the wheel, things back. So just have to say what's here in front of us. I think.
Well, would you guys consider having them remove the little island that was added?
How many square feet is that? The bump out.
This right here.
Yeah.
That's okay. So this is 10 by 20 right here.
So 200 square feet.
Yeah.
That ain't gonna make, I'd probably make more of a mess and create more damage. Plus, you couldn't remove it now. You'd have to wait till August for it to dry out, even then in the middle of the summer.
Yeah, but
But we made a raise.
would we allow?
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting
If it-
at. Is I think
Would we allow that to go forward if they came from us and said, hey, here's our line right now. We want to add this impervious patio that goes over the base flood elevation and is 10 feet from the wetland line. All this work is inside the 50 foot. I think we got to take the new addition out.
Is there anything that we can do to compensate for that?
what is your
I don't know, what do you
suggestion to
thought-
compensate?
thoughts, Lauren?
I guess what is your suggested trade-off?
What would be the drainage? That's Stefan was suggesting. I don't think we can do that.
It seems fair to me. That's more.
Again, I look at it as if that came before us and they said we're going to add a little bit of drainage off and we're going to add 200 square feet in the that close to the wetland, in addition to all the damage that was done.
In an ACEC.
That's in
Well,
an
if
ACEC. I mean, that's.
if I had come out here, I wouldn't have been allowing. I wouldn't have.
Oh no doubt. But
No, I guess following that, if you said.
If they had come to us, excuse me.
Yeah.
if you don't mind. If they had come to us and said, listen, we're gonna take this, the impervious concrete, we're gonna put in, pavers, without, sealing them up, and so we're increasing the pervious nature of the decking. In exchange for that, could we get 200 feet to bump this out to do a barbecue pit? It's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm not saying it's an easy thing because we are 10 feet from the but he's 20. Do you know what I mean? It's not. He goes from 10 to 20. It's not out of the realm of possibility that we wouldn't have considered that. And I can be as a stickler as anybody for this type of thing.
That was the caveat I was going to say was. Essentially, you're saying add 200 to the old apron, but the old apron was, and it's now a better material. If you said all things being equal, if it came, I
I'm not saying we would have approved it, it just wouldn't have been something we would have dismissed
No,
out
it'd
of
be,
hand.
no, it'd definitely be palatable, because that's a pretty good trade-off to allow another 200, but then to turn around and it be of a more pervious nature is definitely, I would say, is a good
We
or
don't
better
have
than
a
even
detail
trade-off.
on that. We need a detail. They're really focusing on the pervious nature of it.
Mm-hmm.
We need a detail of showing
And was
that
the
it's
was the
pervious.
changeover from straight up concrete to these pavers done as part of this work that's been done over the last year, or was that done a
Oh,
long
yeah,
time ago?
yeah.
The whole
That's-
wall
yeah.
is, is pervious,
Yeah.
is new, right?
Yeah.
Right, but that was part of Stefan's question earlier, whether or not that was built inside the footprint of the
Right.
of the patio, or was it exterior? to
Oh,
that?
no, it was going inside the patio. The only thing that's, like I said, the only thing that's extra will be this right here.
Right, I'm just clarifying
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
Andrea, the
Yeah.
question that she
This is,
asked.
this is definitely extra.
I'm
The
speaking
concrete,
Andrea, right?
yeah,
Thank
the
you.
concrete went like, the
Thank you.
fence went like this. And they just added that.
I mean, I'm gonna say, my gut instinct is we shouldn't allow it. But I do think it bears some discussion about, the fact that I can't help but sort of look at the part of the house addition that we made them raise is the equivalent footprint of this bump out. I mean, just relatively.
Pretty similar. Yeah.
It just sort of, we took it away over here, but we're gonna allow them to have it over here. It's a,
Right. We okayed part of it. They went over, so we made them take it back. We didn't okay that at all.
right.
But also, the difference too is this here would have been a permanent previous area.
I understand.
I suppose this here that
And
doesn't have
that's part of
any-
Andrea's point here is that
We need more.
detail of what
Yeah.
that actual, that the paver surface is, so we
Right.
know what it is.
Yeah, okay,
So we can get a better understanding of how the pervious nature has
okay,
increased,
Mhm.
as opposed to, just poured concrete.
sure.
Right.
And that, it may not change Stefan's mind, or
Yeah.
anybody
Well, that's all-
else's. I'm just
Right.
saying though that help, because we're looking at it a little bit differently, perhaps. We have the possibility of looking at it a little differently than we did the addition, because it may be less pervious.
Right.
Less impervious, more pervious. Man, it's a long way.
It is a long
Yeah.
night. Yeah, I
don't
agree.
envy you. I don't envy you, believe me.
I think we need some more details
Okay,
on there.
and then on the, also, we are raising, as you suggested, to increase this floor storage here. He's also, willing to undertake raising that rim.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Sorry, to do what?
Well, that's
The
catch
flooding
basin,
on
yeah.
Yeah.
She would, Andrea had suggested to increase the flooding storage here before it goes out. And so he's willing to undertake that, and he's willing to clean out.
Clean out the
Right,
pipe.
clean out the pipe, so I think, and I'm saying that be done first, and this year be done first before then the rest will be finished. That will be a way also ensuring that what you wanna.
So your plan doesn't show that you're going to raise the rim, but you.
No, it says that on the.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, I thought
Where
it
do you,
was,
where do you see it?
I saw it, address the crime.
Right, if you look
Yeah,
up,
oh, yeah,
look
yeah.
up, look
Rim
up
to be
about,
raised,
rim,
elevation.
existing catches and rim to be raised.
Yeah.
87.2
Right
or,
here, on sheet two,
greater.
on sheet two right here.
Oh, okay, that's old and
Yeah,
this is new.
right,
Okay.
right, so what I do on
Okay.
on those notes, anything that's existing, I show you kind of gray color,
Oh,
so that
okay.
you can see a contrast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Also, the roof,
Yes, I've included that to fix the roof.
the water will go inside.
Well, I definitely say, unlike some of the other enforcement actions that have been before this board recently, I do like the applicant at least now finally hiring the right people and at least trying to proceed in the correct manner.
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
this is a step
so
in the right
that's,
direction.
It's absolutely definitely a step, and I do like helping that flood situation with the road, because it does kind of pond there a little bit on that
The-
stretch.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that
Mhm.
we finally are here sometime later than we needed to be, but we are there. The one thing here is this, the one permanent marker that you've got, it's inside the C series. Is there a reason why we have to have that inside the C series?
Oh, so when we were out there, if you notice, I went through the trees because the trees, I'm not removing the trees, but
Yeah,
I went a
of
straight line from a tree to tree, but I put that intermediate to show the direction of that. In other words, we didn't show the trees before, so now when we tie it all down, you can say, okay, whoa, this tree is supposed to be part of the area that you can't go past.
I see.
Right.
So it's like another post.
Right.
Yeah.
I see, so it's a straight line between those two trees.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
I can probably live with that.
And no matter which way you cut it, I definitely like cedar bound. The total side issue, I like cedar bounds way better than concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
much
I can
better.
agree
It
with
fits in
that.
the landscaping, it fits in the, it all fits way better.
Yeah. All right. We'll get some better details on the patio area. Previous, current,
Yes, sir.
including details on the wall, I guess. Anything
The
else?
wall being,
The
This-
wall
the
around
wall
the
they're putting around the
patio.
patio.
Okay, around the patio.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything else in your mind, Mike?
No, I think like I said, I think I addressed it. We started off on the wrong feet, and I think we certainly exercised enough punitive.
Well, I think we exercise an abundance of patience.
We did that as well, without a doubt,
with,
absolutely.
with
We went
this
from
one.
getting no answers,
Yeah.
to at least, we're all kind of on the same page, trying to get to the same place.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add, Rory? Or request?
No, I think we're fine here. The couple things though that I think are out there that the applicant probably wants some feedback on here is whether or not he can repair the electrical lights, okay?
And the roof.
And replace the roof. You have to replace the whole roof?
Yes.
So do we think we're at a point where we can say okay to those things?
I thought you had done the roof, no?
I think they did one side,
Oh, you did just
roof.
one section.
Yes, that they should look for it.
Right.
To-
Yeah, right in between. No, I'd be fine
I'm
with
fine
that,
with
and the lights is
Good
a
point.
safety issue for.
I'm just saying, that they have showed a lot of good faith
Yeah,
at this
right.
point, and I think we're headed in the right direction. Those things are things we've put a restriction on to get
Mhm.
them to the
Yeah.
right place.
Okay.
I think they're there. It's getting to be that season where the roofer's gonna wanna get out there
Yeah.
and do that.
Yeah,
So-
you're right. I'm fine with that.
Definitely want the people to be able to see it, right, getting in the
Yeah, so
house, you know.
we'll do a motion to allow for redoing the roof and repairing, is it repairing the lights out front or
Adding.
putting,
Yeah.
adding?
Yeah, the-
And adding
Yeah.
lights to those two front, I don't know, what do we call
Columns.
little columns, walls?
driveway columns.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then we'll iron out the rest of the details.
I can get that to you by the end of this week, the details you're looking for.
oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because when I'm in the mood of working on a project, I like to, because if I delay it,
You're gonna forget
It's
stuff.
lost.
Where was I?
right, so I'll get it to you, because plus, I give him a fixed budget, so the quicker I get this done.
Yeah. But, so Andrew, you're all right with the you're good with the wetland restoration portion of this plan?
Yeah, yes, I think that it was well thought out,
Mhm.
and we had good conditions.
Good.
We're actually in the plan,
Mm-hmm.
so,
And you guys are good with the limit set forth by that yellow
The
line
limit,
as
the
far as the
cedar
limit of
posts,
land?
the medallions, that's,
Yeah, I think I'm good with
that's all
that.
fine,
I'm
the
good
work.
with that, yeah.
Okay. Very good. We're almost there.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you guys.
Okay.
Motion to.
Well, the second thing is, do we want him to propose specifically what he wants to put into the existing foundation outside the addition?
oh, another detail.
Oh, yeah,
Do
yeah,
a
yeah,
detail
yeah.
there too.
Yeah, because we are good with the idea of
Oh,
putting.
this year,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or no, right here.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right. Well, it says surface area to be crushed stone and pervious pavers in the detail.
So
Is
I
that
will-
enough? Or do we want a detail on like how deep's the crushed stone and putting pavers on top?
I have no problem doing that, because I'm gonna do this anyway, so I
Okay.
might as well do that, yeah.
As long as you're not gonna bill them for each one separate.
One stone?
Well, you know.
Two stones? 2 hours.
No, that was my late father. He was a contractor, and he had to feed, it's crazy, he had to feed 15 kids.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's why he died early.
Yeah.
Get
Get me out of here.
I had enough of who
There's
was
so
an
much you could
electrical
say to that.
contractor.
Yeah.
So,
30,
He would charge
15.
for a
Good
piece of welding rod.
So, and when you're giving us a detail on the patio.
Yes.
That patio's still a maybe, or is it
I'm
not there yet?
Not there yet.
Okay,
He would charge for part of a grinding wheel.
okay.
If you went in
The,
and
the
you
wear
ground
on a
stuff.
grinding wheel?
I swear to
Yeah.
God.
That's
There's
amazing.
a point one,
And you guys were
two
really
grinding
clear
wheel.
that they were working on your property, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not asking for them to do anything, else other than
The planting.
the restoration now? Okay, just double checking.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it.
I mean, I think that if they can help with the flooding
This
on
is a
that
big,
road too.
right.
It's huge.
Right, that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, that's big to me.
Right.
So-
Motion to, any public comment on 33 Prospect Street? Nobody's here. Motion to continue 33 Prospect Street to the next meeting?
That's just the meeting, because I'll be able to provide this information this week.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Azu.
You'll get some
This looks
sleep.
great so far. Yeah, I know, you guys too,
We're
seriously.
almost there.
Almost there.
This is a 2-page
Oh my
agenda. We haven't
God.
done the back of it yet.
Oh, Jesus.
This was
I forgot it was a 2-pager. Hi, guys.
Oh, so sad.
I've got one more item on the board, on the agenda.
Which one else do you have?
Mr. Murphy,
Mr.
Donna Delila?
10
Brook, 10
This will
Brookview?
take him
Right.
out of order.
Yeah, I guess so. We'll make an exception.
Ken Brookfield.
Am I the next one or
That's an
not?
odd one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be the next
You can
one.
be the next one.
You'll owe
Yeah,
us.
we'll get you out of
You'll
here.
owe us, we'll take it out.
Oh, yeah, big time.
I actually,
Just kidding.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
yeah, so, the certificate of compliance, this is a project that has a long history. And perhaps we don't need to go into it. But it does have a long history, including a superseding order of, so we're doing the permit for,
The work permit.
just for the permit.
Just for the work permit.
Just for the permit,
So
because
that
the
has to go to-
superseding order will come in later. So, this is something you don't usually see very often. They actually have lawn all the way down to the brook.
Love it.
It's really spongy, really
I'm
spongy.
sure.
It says that this area here is, so it says, and you can help me with this because you drew the plan. So it does have this nice decorative bridge and, great lawn area. This line, you can't really see it's just a property line, so you can't tell. This is, it says restoration and mitigation planting. It looks like a garden.
So what?
It looks a lot like a garden.
Okay.
And this existing area of BVW replication looks a lot like lawn.
Mm-hmm.
It's lawn.
Yeah.
Existing replication for BVW. It's grass.
Yeah, well, that's the area that he had that shed that they had to take out, and then he took out the stone. So he had he built a shed without a okay. He built that shed, and there were. I was gonna say something that Stephanie said, but to me anyway. But I don't want to be saying it on the air.
Do you have any clients that follow your rules?
Huh?
Do you have any clients?
No, I came in on this one just
I was
like
gonna
this
say you
one.
inherited this
I came in just like this one,
There was an
He's the
enforcement
cleaning man.
order in
Yeah.
2014.
Yeah.
to
Cleaning it
remove
up.
the
I
shed.
came in just like this one here,
They denied, the Conservation Commission in 2013 denied the shed.
Denied the COC because of the shed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they did, and then the enforcement order, and then an enforcement order was signed a year later saying, get rid of the shed.
Mm-hmm.
That was
So the shed's gone.
2014.
Oh, yeah, the shed's
Shed's
gone.
down, and the replication area is lawn.
Okay.
Well, he took out the stone, the crushed stone. Oh, he put there. all the crushed stone and the little.
But you know what? The lawn fits in very nicely with the rest of the lawn on the property, so I
Right.
just want to point out that it's
So
lawn.
deny.
No, I would say it's. I don't know what they meant when they said restoration area for the building, but it is presently lawn, so I have to look to see what they meant. But it's not. It is not a shed, and it is not a
Crushed stone.
and it is not crushed stone.
Okay.
If you didn't know there was something there before, you wouldn't know that.
Right, it's very nice lawn.
It's
Yeah.
continuous, it goes
Right.
right up to the,
Right.
to that other area,
This
the
area.
mitigation areas.
That mitigation area is not mitigation area. That mitigation area is landscaping.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I mean, it's not even. I mean,
Like a few
It's
bushes.
a few bushes.
Bushes and.
it's a few bushes, but it's a garden.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so. I think that the sooner you wash your hands of this, the better. But it's too late in the game.
And he's,
Too late in the game to have a
and-
new opinion.
And he is gonna. He's getting out of here.
Yeah, I know that,
Mm.
yeah.
Then you get a doctor who's not gonna be. Well, I'm on the air, so.
Well, the
No,
thing
to
is,
say something
and the
about my
fact is,
client.
and the fact is, you still have to go to DEP,
Yeah.
and DEP may or may not accept lawn as.
No, they were when they well, she has since retired, but it was Tina Davis that
Yes.
came out. She says if you can get rid because that was the hang up for Stephanie at the time. You know, she's like, can you tell him to take the shed out and we'll be okay.
Gotcha.
You know,
Okay.
just take the
Okay.
shed out.
Shed's gone.
Shed's
So
gone.
I make a motion to issue a COC.
Yep.
For 10
Second.
Murphy Lane.
Yep. With whatever conditions were supposed to be perpetual, continue those.
Whatever.
All in favor?
Yeah. Thank you.
Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Sold American.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Azu.
Thank you. Next time it'll be a project from scratch.
I know, right?
Good luck with yeah.
I know. I can't wait to see a project from scratch. It's gonna be a good one.
Well, I'm getting ready to retire. You know.
Yeah. Well, after all this.
After this.
I'm
After
getting
this,
ready to
really?
retire. It used to be fun.
Yeah.
It really used to be. You know, when
Dealing with us is fun. So
No, it really. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you're tough, but you know it's like tough love with kids. You know, like tough love with kids. You love your kids, but man, sometimes you want to smack them. You know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know.
It's the same thing here. You know, I tell us guys, you really gotta come along because I'm not doing it anymore. You know.
Yeah.
Thank you for your help.
Thank you very much.
Great work so
Appreciate
far.
it.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right.
You too, Azu. Take care.
Donna Delia Terrace. This is the as-built plan. There's a little bit of gravel parking area across the drainage easement, another gravel parking area, way up off of the wetland line, back down here. The wetland line is defined, along this edge with big borders. And big boulders. They're very effective. Not something you're going to move easily, but I think you should put medallions on them because we know now we've got a source of them, and there's no way of really knowing. There's no way for anybody to realize what those boulders are there for.
Okay.
So other than that, I think it's substantially in accordance with. And we should just continue whatever perpetual conditions they wanted.
All right. So
They originally had.
a COC conditional upon the markers being placed where the boulders are and any perpetual conditions continuing.
No, that they actually like glue
Yeah.
or
Markers onto the
affix
boulders.
affix the medallions onto the boulders.
Okay. All right. So motion to issue COC for Donna Delilah Terrace contingent upon the conservation markers being glued onto the boulders, and any perpetual conditions continuing on in perpetuity forever.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. I have read the minutes, and they look of,
Motion to accept?
they don't, no, well, Rory wasn't here, so he can't look. So that's two in a row, we're gonna slip right by.
Yeah, look. Did you have anything?
No, I read them as well, because I watched the.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you watched the meeting also.
All right.
Keith's good.
Motion to accept meeting minutes for March 18th, 2019.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
And for the record, I had no comments on the previous ones. I know you guys noted that I would find something wrong, but I actually had read those because I didn't know I wasn't gonna be here, so.
Okay.
So you like the way the minutes are being written?
Yes.
Thank you, Keith.
There's a lot of help here too.
Nice. Planner updates?
Ooh, I forgot.
It's okay. Any big ticket items? Anything key?
ATV.
Oh yeah, saw that. Should,
Ac-
I meant to ask you, should we put up a social media post? Be like, if you witness ATV usage on town properties, please call.
The police department?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
we certainly could. The, we got a ATV, complaint with pictures showing, all
Like
the deep ruts. And
Copy the registration.
we
Well, the deep
called
ruts-
and the deep
Lead
ruts
right to the property.
went to the property.
Where is
So-
it? Or which property
Wheaton
of
Farm?
ours?
We
Wheaton.
went off of Highland. So it was a Wheaton Farm. So I
So
passed
going
it
from a
on.
homeowner to the
Yeah.
property?
Yeah. The deep ruts
Oh.
went right up to the
Right up to the
into
garage?
So
It was an entertaining read.
so the police went within 24 hours of me asking, and followed the tracks, and then went and talked to the young man and his parents, and explained that you're not supposed to do that, and on this land it's prohibited. And so I thought, wow, better than anything I could do.
Yeah.
And then the same guy called today, the same complainant called today and said, he's still out here, what's going on? And so I was really excited at noon, and then by 4:00 it's like, wait a second, is it like after the policeman went and talked to him? He's still out there? Could that be so?
Right.
And so I'm waiting to hear whether or not it was after the policeman talked to him or not. But the good news is it wasn't me. It was the police.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy.
Good.
That's the most important thing that
We
happened
should leave
this
that to
week.
them anyhow.
It's a real challenge for the police to deal with it,
Oh yeah.
In this case, they have.
You don't always have the
the
breadcrumbs.
trail going right up to the guy's house.
Not always. In terms of conservation also, we have the dog kennel to take down over at Tufts Farm, and you guys recognized that it needed to be taken down, and we had DPW give us a quote, and then we got a quote from one of our Conservation Commission members who isn't here tonight, and then we got a third quote from someone he suggested might be able to do the excavation. So whereas DPW was asking us to pay for a week's worth of excavator, he actually got a pretty good price. Because now we can pay for 2 days, but now we have to pay for the person on it. But we might get more dumpsters, so if you guys wouldn't mind authorizing $6,500 to remove the dog kennel from the Tufts Farm. I promise it won't exceed $6,500. But this is why we go to conservation, because that's 6 months of rent to take down an abandoned building. And that's using volunteer, that's using local help
Yeah.
without an engineering plan. It's still $6,500.
Well,
Do
we
we have a-
recognize
do
it
we
needs to
have
be done.
Do we have a site visit going on out there soon?
April 16th is the,
4 o'clock, right?
4 o'clock.
Before
That's
the
right,
meeting,
it's
yeah.
4
On
o'clock.
April
I
16th.
put it-
Can you
I
make
put it on
that?
my calendar.
You can make it.
I'm gonna try.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
try.
And Michael, you're gonna
Yeah.
make it?
Yep.
So what's gonna happen is the Conway School, we've actually got the contract executed. But the Conway School is going, students 2 or 3 will come at 4 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Meet here, town hall, race over there, take a look, talk to whatever commissioners are there about what they're looking for. And the farmer, also what he's trying to achieve there, and then come into the meeting, and then they'll have a better then talk to the whole commission, but at least then they'll have a tighter idea of what's going on.
Okay, so we really don't have a choice about taking down this
No,
dog
we
kennel.
don't. No,
So most authorize the.
Authorize up to $6,500 for the demolition of the dog kennel at the Luke Farm property.
Did we thank you. That
Can I
was
get a
Duck
second?
Farm
Second.
property.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Did we finalize the colors on the signs? Because what I said to her was, brown and yellow is fine with me unless you hear from Stefan.
Yeah, I'll circle back with her tomorrow. It's been a crazy couple
It's
of
okay.
weeks.
Because
But
I said
she pulled the brown. It sounds so ridiculous whenever I say this.
I know I'm
She
really
pulled the
so
wrong
impressed.
brown from that page. There's like
3
2,
browns.
and one matched up really well with what's out there already.
Okay.
Oh my.
You
That's
should
why
take-
you get to be the chair and make these tough decisions.
It's the
Okay, so you're
the
gonna
old
get back to
engineering
her.
attention to
You're gonna get back to
detail.
her tomorrow because that's
Yeah, I'll
because
get back
it's
to her.
because tomorrow's the last minute.
A quick question, can the commission vote, something that's done in the, planner updates?
Oh, what thing?
Oh no, sure.
Sure, yeah,
Sure,
because
it's
it's,
okay.
it's not a hearing.
It's
so-
outside the board business,
It's Tufts Farm.
alright? Just asking,
Oh, gotcha.
just making sure.
It's too late for us to. It's too late, and then at night for us to know what the open meeting law says. But
I think we're fine.
I think we're okay.
yeah, okay.
I think it falls under any other.
It's also not only that, but it's something we've discussed like 3 or 4 times. You already
Right.
wanted to do it,
Right, we're actually just going through the actual motion now.
and now we're saying that's it's the actual motion.
All right.
So 80 Prospect, the final order of conditions was agreed to by all the parties.
Okay.
We gave it to DP, presented it to the judge, and she will make her decision and present her decision to the commissioner. And so it is not finalized until the commissioner signs it.
Okay.
Okay? Dedication sign specifications for a trail connector at Flyaway Pond.
Wait, say that again?
Max Road's trail connection.
Uh-huh.
They want to make a dedication sign, and they're asking for specifications. And what I thought they were going to do was just put a little plaque
Uh-huh.
on the
Kiosk.
a little plaque on the kiosk or on the bridge, and now it is its own, mounted on wood at a 45-degree angle, looking something like this.
Oh,
There's
sweet.
the actual sign.
Awesome.
Made possible by
That's
the
cool.
generosity of Conservation Commission and the landowner and an individual, and then there's possibly mounted on a piece of wood and attached at a 45-degree angle, something like this.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, looks good.
I don't know if a piece of wood needs to be quite that big. Unless the sign is
A
really
4x4. It's a 4x4.
Okay. Oh.
It's
Alright,
a
so the sign's
4x4.
like 6x5.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 6x9.
Oh,
I don't know if you like the shaded yellow or not.
knew that was coming. I was really more interested in the brown of the wood.
Okay, okay. Because that brown doesn't look like it's anything in nature.
It matches the aging of the drapes here.
Yeah. So.
They were here before Kennedy got
Do
placed.
you guys don't want to have your name on, right? Because it's your land. So.
I mean,
we just said okay. They did the work, and
Yeah.
it was funded by the
No, Community Preservation Act on there, so
Yeah.
that's fine.
Good.
Those are towns recommend.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Didn't have to get your approval on that. Just
You guys have
wanted
anything
to
else?
have a see it up.
No, sir.
No, there is a draft of the fees in there.
Oh right.
Oh yeah, there is.
Related rights.
I mean, I assume we don't wanna deal with it tonight, but.
No.
Yeah. Should we push that out? Well, yeah. We'll talk about that with the greater group.
It is in there.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
Just wanna know what it says because it's nice and clean.
I know.
Where is it in the back?
Yeah, in the back, all the way in the back, right there.
It's just the fees.
Excuse me.
It's not the vernal pool stuff. It's just the
Yeah,
fees.
just the fees.
The one thing that we did was, we tried to define minor to be 250 square feet of disturbance, for a residential and 250 square feet of, increase in impervious on a commercial. So,
Okay.
just to give it some
Yeah, some
idea
balance.
of what it is, we tried to, I think we've always been trying to say, well, is this, something that's small enough to consider minor, so.
Right. Okay.
I think that just gives us a definition of what it is.
And
I
we
like it.
created a
I'll show you
category,
what it is.
a new category.
Yeah, and we created a category for, ecological, restoration. And we put a fee of $900, which is what a commercial project would be. So, but at least it gets them out of the square footage and everything else
Right.
type of thing. That we got sort of stuck on one of our projects recently about this.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, we got the things to sign. Don't go anywhere.
Oh yeah.
Did we continue 48 Oldfield?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
48 Old Field.
No.
We.
I thought
We approved, didn't we?
we approved it.
You did.
Yeah, just contingent upon. No, was there any contingents? Well, hang on. I have those in my notes.
We continued 37 is gonna be deliberated. And 33 is continued.
48 was the first project for
Yeah.
Peter.
It was approved.
Yeah, it was approved. Yeah, we just amended the conditions a little bit.
And 37
Yes, we demanded,
37
we
was
did,
motion
we
closed
stated
with
salt
the-
water.
Right.
deliberate,
Yes.
close.
Motion closed, but then.
Not, okay, okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, that was the longest one in a while.
Oh my god,
Wow.
I'm so sorry.
I-
This one took me by surprise.
The,
I should have known about 215 too, but.
I should have. We should have known that. But
Should've known what?
we should have known there would have been.
Oh, we off now?
that many. Yeah, we're off.
So I'll tell you a funny story. So the
Oh, yeah, there
bald,
would've been that many
the
people.
bald guy you had to shut